All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics and Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics or Local. So listen, tonight we're gonna have as my brother Zaid likes to say, a jam-packed show. So we're gonna give y'all a rundown, and then we'll tell y'all who's up first. Zaid, you wanna give them the rundown? What's happening at 6?
I will, but first I got to shout out. This is an historic day. Today is the 60th anniversary of the Detroit deliverance of the seminal ballot "All the Bullet" by Malcolm X.
Okay.
I got to do that. I got to shout out my brother Charles Barron and his queen Inez Barron. They have a new show on WBAI.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's right. They just went off the air as we going on the air. Y'all remember that for them? They're not on every Friday, but they're on once a month. I think it's the second Friday every month at 5 p.m. I'm very proud of them, and I'm going to be with Charles and Inez in St. Louis at the electoral school of the Black is Back coalition in the Uhuru movement, right? And Ed and I were just talking about the insurgent campaigns of Cornel West and Melina Abdullah. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot to process, a lot to appreciate, right? And a lot of critical conversations to have.
Yeah.
Right? This is not just a time where we're just going to be, one size fits all when it comes to democracy and justice, because we know better than that now, right? So that's just had to lift up Malcolm's legacy and what that means for this particular historical moment. For tonight, in just a moment or two, Denisah Williamson, young woman who literally, made her career in the development of Newark's community-based violence intervention ecosystem, and who developed a new program just within the last year called Pushh Forward, is going to talk about their first anniversary. And I really want her to tell her own story too, because I think this is the first time that Denise has been on the air with us. Okay. After that, Joe Marchica of the Mercer County chapter of Our Revolution, who's been on our show before on a number of voting rights related issues, right? But just in recent weeks, things have really gotten hot around the notion in New Jersey politics of the line, the county line on the ballot. And those developments are moving towards the people, and Joe has been very intimately involved in that. So we're going to talk about what's left of the line, or whether or not we are at the end of the line, right? Then after that, people's lawyer C.J. Griffin is going to join us, right? Because C.J. has been the go-to lawyer whenever we need to go in the court to protect and defend the Open Public Records Act of the state of New Jersey. And there's this very soprano state-ish push to gut this very important bill that is huge when it comes to police accountability, elected official accountability, contractual accountability, all those things that are important when it comes to records being available to protect people from being corrupted or exploited, in terms of how public funds and public leadership and public institutions are managed. We're going to talk about where we're at with the fight to defend Oprah. And then, of course, after that, from the land of hip hop, our own DJ Rhino, the world's greatest DJ, will take us to the land of hip hop. We got a full show tonight, y'all.
And what I understand is we're waiting for confirmation also from.
We got a candidate, right? Don't we have some candidates?
Yeah, we're supposed to have one come on. John said that he's waiting for the confirmation, so he'll text us during the show.
Okay.
Let us know if that person is confirmed, and if so, then we'll announce who that is. All right.
Right. That'll happen after CJ. Yes. Yeah. I didn't have that in front of me. Thank you for that, Ed. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that.
But hopefully, when Rhino comes up, hopefully we get an opportunity to talk about Mr. C. As you know, one of the famous hip hop DJs went home to be with the Lord this week. So hopefully we get a chance to talk about
that. Yes,
with Mr. C. So let's get this show popping, and let's go on and welcome our sister to the show.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I'm Denisah.
Denise, is this your first time on the show?
Yes, it is my first time on this podcast. Yes, it is my first time on this podcast.
Okay. I wasn't sure because the show's been around a long time.
Yes, I'm aware.
And
I
I've only
was
been
so excited. I was like, "Oh, little curly-haired girl gets to come on."
I've only been on for a few years, so some folks have gotten on long before I even been a guest on the show. So I just want to make sure I was right when I said this is your first time. It was certainly won't
100% accurate.
last. I don't know if you heard me preliminarily in the introduction of the show describe how we want you to come on, and so let's just go ahead and get into it.
Yes,
you've been somebody it's been a real pleasure watching you, come of age, serving our community, and particularly our young, right? In the land of community-based violence intervention and prevention work, you have been one of the most long-standing social workers doing this work. Right now, we're here to talk about the 1-year anniversary of your new formation, Pushh Forward, but you've been in this for a whole lot longer than 1 year. So it's important. I want you to lift up what's going to happen, with the anniversary very quickly. Then we're going to back up, tell your story and how your entree into this work, and why it was so important for you to make this kind of professional commitment. So
now I'm really, really excited. I wish I would have heard all of that. Yes, now I'm really, really excited. So first, thank you for having me. So you want me to jump on in about the anniversary?
Yeah, and we'll start there. We'll end there.
So I'm sorry, Edward. You've never met me. I am probably the most animated person in the entire world, I think, but I might be wrong. But tomorrow is Push's 1-year anniversary. It's not only just Push's. Pushh stands for Peers Understanding Strategies for Healing and Help. That name came about is because we understood that a peer is more than just someone who has the same age demographic. It is somebody who has a shared experience, and that we knew that we understood a lot of strategies, and we were utilizing those understandings to be able to not only heal ourselves, because it's healing, because we know that healing is ongoing, and then it's also to be able to help another, because that is a true definition of mastery. Like, to be able to master something is being able to teach and train someone else. So that's why we came up with Pushh. So Pushh actually started March 2nd of 2023. I am the biggest Michael Jordan fan, sorry, shameless plug, but 3223 is when I started my nonprofit organization. And then I also started the LLC 3723. So when we started those organizations, we wanted to be able to give access to youth to be able to understand what was going on inside their own community and be able to train them to be able to teach someone else and be able to bring resources, credible messengers, information to their own communities in their own way. So it wasn't about us telling them, it was about us understanding those strategies and teaching them how to heal themselves while they help another. So Pushh is celebrating their 1-year anniversary of me stepping out on some courage, some faith, and saying, hey, I wanted to be impactful inside my community in the way in which I understood, and the community that shared and helped me heal. So we started Pushh. The reason why we didn't have our anniversary in March, I think a lot of people already know this, but I will share this, is that we had pushed the anniversary out to April, is because I'm also Muslim and a lot of my family is Muslim. And I wanted to make sure they were able to share in my anniversary and my spirits. And we just came out of our holy month of Ramadan. So we decided that we were going to have our anniversary in April instead of March, so that everyone that supports us and every community that supports us was able to participate. So that's the anniversary.
Oh, okay. Now let's walk back. Right? These are bright. This is Ed. You know this daughter here got her papers from Southern Cal University.
No, I didn't know. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Took her little sweet little West Africa and stayed out in California and left our field Negroes of Newark behind in the dust. But for some reason, she came back, and not only did she come back, came back and got right in the trenches with a degree. Now, Denise, before you came on, I acknowledge that
degrees
is
let me put an S on that one. Degrees.
yeah. The day of the anniversary of the Malcolm's Ballad of the Bullet, which is a hugely political, classic of Malcolm, right? But Malcolm's story is best known through his autobiography, and one of the haunting turns in his young life when he was a child was when his family was torn apart after the death of his father. And of course, walking point for that tearing apart of his family was a state-centered, state-serving social worker. Now, you used the word credible messenger a minute ago. One of the things that I definitely stress in this work is that the notion of credible messenger in this work is multi-tiered. It is not just those of us who have been there and done that, in terms of us who have been just as impacted and been G's on the streets and all of that, who are coming out of the streets now trying to clean it up. But there are other folks who have another kind of bearing and credibility that also are a part of making that work happen. And one of the things that is happening is that in this work, she popped off. I'm gonna keep talking and let her come back on. Something happened with her in the screen, right? But in this work, and the city is full of them, we can claim a lot in Newark on this too, is the transformation of the role and character of what social work looks like, right? Back then and in many places, social workers are state-driven and are disruptors of a kind that actually have a soft hand of delivering harm to our people in the conditions that we face. But with the emergence of community-based violence intervention work, the social worker is an interrupter of how the system negatively impacts and tries to undo and work through and work around how systems negatively impact on our work. And that work is overwhelmingly looks like Black and brown women like Denisah. Okay, so brothers tend to be the street credible messengers, and that's not exclusive either, because sisters have been there and done some stuff too, right? But that's overwhelmingly brothers. But in terms of the creating and I'm using Equal Justice USA language for a minute, creating the gateway from harm to healing, the transformation of the face and character of service of the social worker in this context is very different, and it's done like this young woman, right? So when did that turn happen for you? When did you decide, and how did you decide to get down like that?
So a little funny, little couple of things about myself, and I just want you to know, like, Baba Zai, like I will always call you Baba. What happened inside of my life was, like, it's an age-old story. I think that a lot of our young people do share. I grew up in a household in the South Ward of Newark, where both my parents were heroin addicts. And what was unfortunate about like the heroin addicts is I was a really needy child. Like I admitted today, like me and my mother tells me I was a needy child. Like I required a lot of attention. And when you have two parents that are heroin addicts, they don't actually see the need. So sometime around when I was in the 5th grade, we transitioned to what I thought was the worst part of Newark. I grew up inside of the 100 Chadwick building, and I moved into the 100 Chadwick building with my parents. And then soon after that, my father moved to California, which speeding it up is how I was really introduced to the University of Southern California, because my father decided to move to California. And he moved to California in the 90s. So, and we have to understand what that culture looked like in the 90s, what the gang violence looked like, with crime and violence, exactly. And it was absolutely positively just that. And my father made the decision that he was going to move to California. He was going to get clean. My mother wanted to stay here, and she was going to do what she was going to do. And those things happened. And throughout my life, I had to start understanding a couple of things. Like by the time I was 13, I went to California, moved to California with my father, and my parents tried to reconcile. That didn't work. And that's when I first got introduced to what they call gangs. street organizations, whatever word we want to use today. And that was my first introduction into the gang environment. I actually lived in a complex that was mainly most activity was through the Crip gang. So that was my first introduction to understanding what gangs look like. And then I was so confused because, again, like I said, I was just this needy child. Like, so I always wanted to ask questions. I was always very inquisitive. I wanted to know why they always wore these colors. I wanted to know where these derogatory statements came from towards Mexicans, towards this and towards that, and towards the people that wore red, because California color banged, and they color banged in a different way than what we were doing it and what came to New Jersey later. Because color banging the way it was in California is totally different, and that vibe and that energy is a totally different mindset and mantra. So that was my introduction to a lot of this life. So here I was, this little girl who has parents of heroin addicts, who were trying to get it together, who were not paying attention to a needy child. And then my parents couldn't reconcile. We came back to New Jersey. And then that's when my life took off. I met a man that I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life. We ultimately did get married and have 2 children, but I was gang raped in the process. I was raped by people that I thought were my friends, where they raped me, beat me, wrapped me up in a sheet and put me on the porch. And I thought that I was going to tell my mom, and she was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, what you want me to do? Pat you on the back and tell you everything was going to be okay? You shouldn't have been there. You knew better. You had been raised better. And so my ultimate struggle began right there, because I was this person who required some attention and affection and need from a male. I was this female that required some attention from my community. I was always an outgoing kind of person, and I didn't know how to be outgoing and have my attentions and be fostered by someone who had good intentions towards me. So that's where my real life really started to take off. And that's when I started wanting to run the streets and running behind men, and being able to start to negotiate my self-respect for attention, for money, for popularity, for everything that I thought at the time was important. And I began to have fist fights, and I became what everyone else said was one like popular fighters. Like, oh, they were like, oh, you know, Niece, she gonna fight. She gonna do this and she gonna do that. And I held on to it. But then the whole time I just wanted somebody to actually ultimately just see me. I hope that's not a laugh at me. I'm joking. I wanted someone to see me. I wanted somebody to see that I just wanted attention. I just wanted to belong. I just wanted my parents to stop getting high. I just didn't want men to only look at me as a sex symbol. I didn't just want people just to be like, oh, she's smart. I wanted to be seen. I wasn't just a fighter that somebody be like, oh, you know, like, I don't get along with her. Let me send her over here and fight this person. I wanted somebody that acknowledge and see me. So as I started to like continue on my education and my career, and I met this
because I want to come back. I want you to keep talking, but those few words, Ed, you'll remember this. When I had my troops, we used to shut down. We once started shutting down the streets before the North Violence Coalition, right? Mm-hmm. And we wanted to get at the police, but we had to do that because it's the community told us to do, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I used to do when we would shut down the streets, and folks would bug out when I would do this, is I would apologize to the streets. I would apologize to the babies. And why the Panther apologizing? I said, because, you know, my generation made some horrible mistakes in our lifestyle choices that severely compromise our capacity to parent. And where addiction was up underneath all of that, particularly crack. You talking about heroin, you know, like crack, you know, was you know, all, you know, that continuum was horrific, right? You know, really did a number, and all of the dysfunction, a lot of the dysfunction that we see in our community now stems directly from that fallout and those mistakes that some of us actually ran to when we should have been running that out of the community. Mm-hmm. Right? And then there's this notion, and then we'll come back to it. You know, I just wanted to be seen. There's an African word called sawabuna, which means I see you. Right? That was taught to me by somebody I love indirectly, who's also a social worker. Well, I would love to get in this space, but we've got
Mhm.
some things we got to work out first between us, right? But I would tell this, I would make that apology because using social work language, one of the issues, folks think of the abuse, but then there's this issue called abandonment.
Mhm.
A lot of our young people feel abandoned by the generation that was supposed to take care of them.
Mhm.
Right? Some of that abandonment is real because of issues like addiction and incarceration, right? And our kids wind up out there, and that instead of breaking cycles, we're creating them, and they go round and round and round and round. So I just wanted to put a pin in that, because we all come to this from personal space.
Yes.
We do collective things, and some of us who have understand the importance of collaboration bring collective spirit to the work and process to the work, but we all come from places that really drive us to this, that speak to where our community has been harmed and where our community needs to help. Continue with your story.
Thank you. So so now, like, here I am, this young person who had been violent. And I try, like, all these things are Googleable. So, like, I try not to be like, I met this woman named Joyce Truesdale, who was my guidance counselor after I had been kicked out of 3 high schools for being violent. And I finally went to Clifford J. Scott, and I met a guidance counselor named Joyce Truesdale, and to me was the first person that saw me. And she said to me, she was like, "This not you." She was like, "I don't know why you're so angry, little girl, but this not you." And even though it didn't stop with Miss Truesdale, but it was the planting of the seed, and somebody actually acknowledging that this wasn't what I was supposed to do. And then I applied to multiple colleges. I applied to Montclair, and I applied to Keene, and I applied to everywhere, and nobody would take me because of my track record, because of my history, because of my educational status, because I wasn't passing my classes. I was always a bright girl. I just wasn't in school enough to be able to show that. I wasn't being educated in a way that was able to demonstrate that I had what it took to be saw, to be heard, to be listened to. So my mother decided, she said, "Oh, you're going to go to Essex County College and you're going to take up computer science." That did not last long. And anybody who's ever seen me at a computer knows that could never lasted long. But I went there, but then I got introduction to who is still a great mentor of mine, Linda Carter, who was one of my professors while I was there. And like, "Oh, take up criminal justice." And she introduced me to criminal justice. While I was inside the criminal justice field, I started looking at sociology, which happenstance is why I have an associate's degree in criminal justice and sociology, because I was so torn, because I met this person who, again, was sparking this light inside of me. And I thought that I was going to follow in her footsteps, like, "Oh, maybe I'll be a lawyer, And then I realized that that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And it was the criminal justice, and it was the sociology. And then it was like, okay. Then my dad was like, "Oh, I want to be a part of your life again." So it was going back to California, going back to USC, coming back to New Jersey, going back to Essex County. And I was still trying to find my way. And then when I ultimately started to find my way, I went to Keene, which is a school that I purposely went to because they had denied me before. And I got my 2 bachelor's degrees, one in criminal justice, one in sociology. And then I went to Ashford University and did another in applied behavioral science. And then ultimately went back to USC and did my master's in social work, and then became a licensed social worker. But then along the way, I was so very much interested in so many other things. So then I did substance abuse because I wanted to see if I could understand my parents for a change. Like, why did addiction take you from me? So I did substance abuse, and I worked inside Garden State Youth Correctional Facility for 5 years as a substance abuse counselor in the therapeutic community. And then I had children who were struggling with education. So then I worked at a couple of schools inside of their child study teams, and the child study teams taught me about special education and IEPs and BI in a bit. So then I had to start to understand it. So I started cultivating this career. And then along the way, when I came back, I met a man who, even though like some days politically, societally, we don't always look like we're looking at each other eye to eye. I met Altariq Best, who was the executive director of the Arts and Trauma Center, the Hub Arts and Trauma Center, and I became the chief operating officer there. And then that's when I had took all of the things that I had learned. Here was I had already been certified in domestic violence. I had been a substance abuse counselor. I had been a paraprofessional. I had worked on a child study team. I had done grief counseling. I had done trauma counseling. I had done all these things, and I had all these certifications, I had all this education. And I'm like, okay, Newark, I'm back. And I came back and I said, Newark, I'm back. And, I started working at the Hub Arts and Trauma Center. And those who know us very well, me and Altariq were very successful in creating a new narrative of what it looked like for community-based violence intervention as it pertained to youth inside of our community, and working with youth that were justice involved, court involved, at risk. And when I hate that phrasing, at risk, so like taking it on to like my next level of my story is meeting Opportunity Youth Network, who started changing the way, taking those pejorative like statements and saying, okay, instead of calling them at risk, these are opportunities for us to excel. And it gave me an opportunity to start seeing someone else. It gave me a chance to see young people. It gave me a chance to see youth. It gave me a chance to let me hear them, listen to them, and then push, pun is always intended, push them forward. To be able to see the power and the magnificence of themselves, and being able to uplift their plight, and being able to train those young people instead of them having to do the same pitfalls as me. No, you don't have to go through a gang rape to be able to find your true power. No, you don't have to be molested to find your true power. No, you don't have to like be in the streets and be shot at and be stabbed and like having sex with men because they are satisfying a need for you. You don't have to do that. No, you don't. So I was like, this was my opportunity when I created Pushh, is being able to shine a light on all those little kids. I call it the little dirty kids because I was a little dirty kid. And I was like, hey, this is all for all the kids that weren't seen. These were all the kids that nobody noticed. These were all the kids that was angry for no reason, so we thought, who really had real life reasons and real life issues. Let me shine a light on them. And being able to shine a light on Newark, especially the West Ward, which I'm focusing on right now. So let me shine a light on them, and being able to take all the experiences that I've been able to accumulate and being able to shine a light on my community, on my youth, all my youth that are work with me. I don't know if Baba said it's under 27. All my staff is from 18 to 27 because I'm only hiring those who are able to touch back and bring back inside those young people that are court involved, justice involved, and as we say, at risk of not having their protective factors, not being able to understand housing, not being able to have some place to live, not having an apple to eat, not being able to eat, not being able to educate it. All those things that are not protecting them to be able to keep themselves safe, that we are here to shine a light on you and saying that we see you, we're here, and we're going to walk this walk with you.
Right on. Let me just lift up a couple things. Right, you rolling, and I'm glad you got to tell that story. Right, you mentioned the Hub, and Altariq has been on several times, but I don't know that folks appreciate how pioneering what he did and what he's been doing. And literally, a hip hop raised G, right? He took a challenge from his own son personally, and came to understand, and with a lot of personal sacrifice in creating that space and those studios and all of that, right? He was out in front of that institutionally, organizationally, before a lot of the formations that are now doing the work, right? So I wanted to just put a pin in that, right, and lift that up, and you were right, y'all were for a good minute, 7
years,
being bop and the hip and the hop, right, and I'm jazz oriented, right, so I'm saying bebop and hip hop, right. Y'all really put down some groundbreaking work in that space. Right. And I should say this also. I want folks to understand how the work developed in Newark and how we're trying to branch it and spread it now. When the mayor became the mayor and really started putting some things in place, one of the things you deal with is what is data telling us? Where are most of the problems, and the work started and was concentrated in the South Ward, because South Ward is the biggest ward And data told us that's where we have most of our problems, but we got problems throughout the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not by an accident that someone of your vision, history, practice, and standards is now pushing into the West Ward.
Yes.
We need help in the West Ward. We need help in all the wards, right? But the growth of the work is now beginning to come out of that nucleus, that's that first circle of support, right? Of wraparound and all those other things we like to call it, right? Is now starting to emanate and push forward throughout the city. So it's very important, very strategic, and very pivotal that you're bringing what you're bringing into the West Ward, right? So what has Pushh done in this first year?
I am so glad you asked that question. What Pushh has done this first year? Number one, we have had our year. We've had our launch party. We were able last summer. We trained 20 youth through summer youth employment. We were able to put on several block parties because we do data informed services. That's why I have my shirt on today. MPSC. We always
had Newark Public Safety Collaborative. That is the research arm based at Rutgers Newark, the data arm of the community-based violence intervention ecosystem here in Newark. They give us the data that we need to attack.
That's why I wanted to wear their shirt today. They gave me one. They didn't know I was going to wear it, but I definitely wanted to wear their shirt because when I started Pushh, I said that I wanted to hyper focus. Something about that word target just kind of like for me. So I wanted to hyper focus on the West Ward. And so they gave me 7 different neighborhoods inside of the West Ward that were experiencing high levels of violent crimes, high levels of car theft. And we took those 7 places and then that was quantitative, and we took some qualitative data and we took it to the streets and started asking the people like, hey, what would you like to see? What would you like to see us do? So when we did that, we took the next year and we started bringing different services to different parts of the West Ward. So every location that we've actually been to has had at least 4 violent crimes or violent acts within the last year. So we have had our basketball tournament, which was amazing. We did that at Westside Park. We had an attendance. We took all of those 7 blocks that MPSC gave us, and we took those 7 blocks and we conducted a basketball tournament with all of those neighborhoods that have been experiencing crime. We also have been doing community feedings every single Sunday in all of those neighborhoods and rotating, where we service 75 families or individuals at the time with a hot meal. So we've done breakfasts, we've done brunches, we've done lunches in all of those environments. We also took a hyper focus with the collaboration of Bradley Corp projects and allowing us to come in there every single Friday, where we're bringing a youth night there, youth game night, and then we bring different services, trauma-informed services. We do trauma and grief groups with them and Bradley Court every Friday since February. We have also, since then, beyond that, we've done different, and also our block parties. We've had, we did a motorcycle event there inside of our community. So we're continuously doing
a motorcycle event.
Yeah.
So Pushh is Rough Riders too?
No. This is not a Rough Rider. The motorcycle community is a little bit different, but yes, in partnership with some of the motorcycle communities here, we have done different events where they have made donations to us, where we have done where they have done like our book bag giveaways, because we did a book bag giveaway last year as well. So, and that collaboration, and they continuously push us forward. With that motorcycle community is called Thunder Guards, and they have been like a huge support system for us in the last year, and being able to assist us with donations, food donations. They have also done several different things as far as like our book bags. We did a tablet drive and different things that we've done throughout the year.
That's a lot.
It has been a lot. We actually so we have been awarded by Opportunity Youth Network as a sub-award from the city. We've also been funded through the Office of Violence Prevention. We've been afforded from Prudential. We have New Jersey's Children Fund. And then that have made donations. And then on Sunday, as I know you know, Baba, is we are taking a total of 12. There is 9 young people under the age of 26 that we are taking to Boston University, this week, Sunday, after our anniversary. So we're going from the anniversary straight to Boston. And when we're going to be the pilot program with Boston University and reimagining juvenile justice and positive youth development, and being able to train young people on how we reimagine juvenile justice, how we bring positive youth development into our communities. And we are doing that this Sunday, and we'll be going for a week.
Who is the sponsor of that training? I've been meaning to ask you that.
So Boston University is one of the sponsors of it. It is also School and Main Institute, and School and Main Institute is funded by the Annie Casey Foundation.
Okay.
And
Boston,
they're bringing a youth focused training for us.
And that's a whole week too. And then Boston University. Who went to Boston University that's famous in our universe, right? None other than the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself, right? A lot of people forget that he's his northern.
Yes. You always teaching me something.
Oh yeah. But this, to be able to get our kids out of the city for a week,
and we are taking some of the as other people's, not Denisah's phasing, at risk and high risk youth. The 4 young people that are under the age of 18 that we are taking have been listed. One of our young people have already at the age of 6, he's not even 16 yet, has already spent 1 year in the JJC program. So all of our youth have been justice and court involved that we are taking. Everyone that's on our staff are all from the West Ward that have either been justice, court involved, and are listed as at risk or high risk youth, including myself.
Make it plain.
And we're all going to be trained to be the actual model for this.
That is that again is Newark, New Jersey, continuing to break ground doing this work. Now tomorrow, tell everybody what's happening tomorrow.
Tomorrow is our anniversary, and what's so amazing is that not only is our anniversary, we are celebrating our 1 year. We are I believe all our community partners are going to be there. There's no way. Brick City Peace Collective, Office of Violence Prevention, My Brother's Keeper, Opportunity Network, Equal Justice USA. Everyone is going to be there. However, we are also doing we have performances that are going to be happening there. We're partner New Direction, which is another great organization inside of our ecosystem. New Direction is hosting our anniversary party at our location at 95 16th Avenue. They are hosting it. We also have 3 performers who are also been listed as at-risk or high-risk youth. They are from what they call historic, like Bedrock, which is who doesn't know what Bedrock is, right? But they are coming from Bedrock. They're coming from Irvin Turner, from Stratford. And then we have another performer who's Zobali, who is really famous inside the West Ward, who is performing and gracing and blessing our facility. Because within our first year, we are one of the first smaller nonprofits who actually has a brick and mortar. So we do have our own location at 95 16th Avenue, and we are celebrating our locale as well.
Loaded.
It is going to be fun.
Yeah. So
it's food cater. All food is free. We have a full catering menu. I can cook, but I did not cook this. We have food for all the youth. We are expecting at least 500 youth tomorrow.
Wow.
To come and experience our mini concert. With it, we are having Ray Sav. A lot of our young people know who Ray Sav is. Tally Man Yup and Zobali are actually performing at our anniversary. We are being hosted by New Direction, and it's going to be a great time. Hear me tell you.
Now, it's what time?
It's from 5 to 9 at 95 16th Avenue.
Is there any money involved or registration process involved?
There's no money involved. This is our homage back to our community. The community that holds us up continuously. They have held us up, and we have been held up in an amazing light. And we decided that our first anniversary, we weren't going to ask anybody to give anything to us because we have been given so much. So much is given, much is required. And because we are our 1 year anniversary, we are almost completely fully funded as a nonprofit. Our LLC has a fee for service, and we have been so highly favored through the grace of Allah that we are never, so that we are in the capacity to be able to do that. So this was our homage, our thank you to our community of allowing us to lead in trailblazing in the West Ward.
And you know, there was once upon a time, not too long ago, the idea of even doing something like that with the gun violence plague that we have been stark with was inconceivable just a few years ago. That's how much work has been put in.
Yes.
Right.
And I think our mayor, like our mayor is like, for me, I don't know, like if this is space, I think that our mayor is like the most awesomest because I very rarely do I see a mayor who like sees a little girl like me. He tells me to stop saying it. He's like, stop saying you from the dirt, stop saying you from the trenches, stop saying you from the mud. I'm from all those dirty little words. And I am working on not saying that. But for him to see, for me to be like stepping out on faith and wanting to work in the West Ward, and for our mayor to make sure that I was in positions that I was able to continue this message is forever grateful. Robert Clark, who usually does not take on small organizations like that, for him to believe in me and be like, hey, Denisah, you know what? I'm going to give you this sub award. I'm going to give you a time to
unsung in our community.
Yes, and Robert, like, and he gave me a sub award and gave me my first 90 days as capacity building. He was like, all I want you to do is write, refine, get your organization together, understand what you want to do, what is your message. And then when I came back to him with all these things, because he told me to write, he was like, write less. Now I need you to edit. And then let's get it together. So I thank him for that. You know, I stand on the shoulders of, to me, two of the most powerful powerhouses inside the city of Newark. Our honorable mayor, Oraz Baraka, who has always challenged me anytime he see me. He always makes this joke. Every time I see you, Denisah, you got that little blue book bag on your back. Because if you see me in the community, it's me and that blue book bag. And he's like, where are you going with that blue book bag? But, you know what I'm saying? Everybody knows that blue book bag is like a plethora of information. Robert Clark, who actually took a risk on this little girl from Newark. And we pushing forward. Now we're celebrating our first year anniversary. And it is onward and upward.
And she and I've been running our mouths. You've been taking this.
I'm sorry, Edward.
Oh, no, this is how he works. He's in the cut when he's ready to jump in. He blows the mic up.
Yeah. Well, I've actually been impressed by her story and her journey. Right. I think that obviously, while folks are running from our community, she found a way to run back. And so I think she deserved to be, celebrated for doing that. And I think that her story is obviously one that can reach a lot of kids who are actually on that borderline right now, trying to decide which way they want to go. And I think that that's important, right? Because for most of us, you hear folks, once they've achieved that level of academic success, they're talking about how they can go and move to greener pastures. Not that they're talking about coming back and getting in the mud and getting
our pastures.
Right. Getting down there and helping those kids who are down there and pull them up with you. So I think you should be congratulated for that, and I'm honored just to be here and listen to your story. And anytime I see a queen, who has made the decisions that you've made, I mean, I'm elated because, from you, all life flows, right? So I think that that's important. And, I want to wish y'all good luck tomorrow with that 1 year anniversary. And I'm looking to see what you do going forward. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens in the Westwood. I know the mayor said that he was talking about, it becoming ground zero because they're putting together a new office there, on South Orange Avenue. And so I know that the West Ward is going to be a major focus. So I'm excited to see what you do in the West Ward. But I am curious though to know when you went back to California, what part of Cali did you go back to?
So my father lived in Covina. So I lived in Covina, California for quite a while. So we lived in a lot of San Bernardino County, like West Covina. But I was a knucklehead. So my father worked for Amtrak, and I still have a free rail pass. So I was
you right.
I was moving around. I was busy.
Right. So you were out there in the 90s. So you were out there doing that whole Rodney King fiasco that was going on in the 90s.
Yeah, so I was in and out of California at that time. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I used to go every other summer, every other summer, every other holiday, to see my dad because my father remained living in California.
yeah, when California was a real powder keg at that point. And it's interesting how you were relating to how the colors, right, how they would bang for their colors. That was real interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't become, we had a young brother who was a gang member, who had come from California because he was out at Grambling. The gangs out in California had had thought he was pretty bright, so they decided to send him to college. And we were producing a magazine at the time called the College Entertainment Review, out of East Orange. And he saw that magazine because we distributed to all the black colleges. And it was interesting when he came to Newark, and him coming from California, having sort of the same story you had with how he saw red and blue. And when he got here, it was seeing that development happen here was nothing like what he had experienced in California. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's interesting, and I think you ought to be commended for having survived that, right? Because that in of itself is tremendous. Because a lot of young people, particularly young women, were not surviving that. So kudos to you, and I think that all that experience that you bring, I think the man's right and exact. I think you need to stop referring to yourself in the mud, yourself in the mile. No, you survived all of that. Right? You know how people talk about surviving cancer,
Mm-hmm.
surviving addiction, right? You survived all of that. And I think that you need to be held up as a survivor to say to those other young people, you know what, if I can do it, you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of this organization, Pushh Forward. Just that whole concept, right? When I hear that, I'm thinking in my mind, right, as a weightlifter. You don't see muscles when you first start, right? When you start pushing weights, right, you got to keep.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody come by and say, "Hey, young sister, hey, young brother, keep pushing." Right? That says something in my mind. It says if you keep pushing, you know what's going to happen? You're going to start seeing those muscles, right? You're going to start seeing that level of confidence, right? When you're saying that, no one saw you and you were trying to be seen, and then eventually someone saw you, and then when they saw you, you came into your own. So that's important, and I think for you, like I said, I'm excited to see what happens after 1 year. So I thank you for coming on the show, and I'm going to be following to see what happens
Oh,
in year 2.
please do. One other thing I just I forgot to say, and I know my time is up because I'm a chatter, but I am running for district leader this year for my district. Because I said, because I've been living in the same house for almost 20 years, and I'm a West Wardian now, and I've been living here 20 years. I've raised my kids here, and I said, I have to. Not only am I a leader as far as being like an activist and a business owner, I'm also a parent and I'm also a homeowner. So I needed to really show myself and be present. And I'm being present in my community and actually just put my foot down and saying, hey, you know what? You're not going to ignore us West Wardians no more. You're not going to ignore where we live at. They call us the Hooter. You're not going to ignore the Hooter no more. You're going to see us. We're going to clean this up. We're going to be all right. And we're going to push forward.
Well, I think you're going to make a fine district leader.
Thank you.
So I will already, I'll go on and declare that. I'll declare that you are the district leader of the West Ward, right?
Thank you.
Existence. And so we got one more question we need to ask you, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are a political hip hop radio talk show, right? We just happen to be doing our thing online now, but we ask all of our guests, right, when they come on, what are you when you going through all of the things that you're going through, everything you're doing, and particularly as you were struggling in the 90s, what do you listen to now, and what kind of music were you listening to keep you going?
Well, that is so funny. I'm glad you asked that. And I think I might fall to the floor. I am 100% upside down a househead.
Oh, this is Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Houses.
Yeah.
Look,
Yes, I
Chicago, the
am.
house capitals of the
Yes,
world.
I
Hey, you know, that's all right.
Yeah.
I am a house head. I love house music. I go to all house music festivals. When they see me, I am such a house head that most house music DJs know me and
Yeah.
this little curly mop. And they be like, look at Denisah. I'm like, here I am. I am a house head.
Yeah.
I do love hip hop. I love rap. I love all kinds of things. But if you're telling me what gets me through cleaning my house, what
Yeah.
motivates me, what I pull on for strength, I am a house head.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I ain't mad at you. Listen, I mean, I can tell you from Newark, right? That's like if somebody tells me they from Washington, and they tell me they like go-go, I get it. You know what I mean? So I understand. So thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you coming through and
Thank you.
on the show tonight.
I hope to see y'all soon.
All right, and I'm gonna miss y'all over the next because I got to travel tomorrow too. I'm gonna miss y'all.
Peace.
All right, baby. Good stuff. Good segment.
Indeed.
Yeah, Ed, you remember this guy?
I do. He's a ball of information. Glad to have him back. You know what I mean?
We got a lot to unpack here because and Joe, this is a teaching platform, right? So, I mean, those of us who know and understand what we're talking about and what we do really have turned it up in recent weeks, months, and have really made some headway in a number of fronts, right? But one that has been a dogged space, so dogged that so many in political circles have always felt it above reproach or untouchable.
Insurmountable, you might say.
We done touched it up. We done touched it up. It's on the ropes. Right?
Yeah.
Right,
we might actually
boxing backgrounds. We got it on the ropes.
We might actually be living through the end of the line in New Jersey. We may be in the process of it.
With Joe everybody, this is Joe Marchica from Our Revolution, Mercer County, right? Died in the world, people's activist, who's been very helpful with us on a number of fronts. Particularly, Joe came to us around support work for our push a couple of years ago for the CCRB bill, right? But Our Revolution, we should talk about Our Revolution a little bit too.
Oh yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Our Revolution in Jersey has done some very pointed, very targeted things that are very important in really trying to move the needle for real, genuine democratic participation from the grassroots, from the bottom up. That is absolutely essential if you're going to really try and change anything structurally on that front. So I want to introduce you in that way, Joe. Right, and of course we want to talk about the new and the recent developments around the line. But first, let's just take a step back and just explain it for a minute. What are we talking about when we say we're talking about the line? We got elections coming up, and a lot of folks don't know what that is, right? But those who do, understand and are putting in some work. But just for background's sake, for those that don't know, give us some background on just what the line is, and why that has been such a challenging space for democratic practice here in New Jersey.
So first and foremost, it's really good to be back. I was trying to thank you guys for having me on, and then I realized I was still muted and couldn't find the mute button. So, those of us under the age of 40, we still have our tech difficulties. It does happen, even for millennials. But Joe Marchica, I'm with a group called Our Revolution New Jersey. I'm located in Mercer County. I live in Hamilton with our county chapter. Originally, we were founded out of the Bernie Sanders campaign back in 2017 after the 2016 campaign wrapped up. Obviously, it's a lot more than that at this point. It's been 5 years, 7 years, 8 years? I can't count. But yeah, we've pushed on a number of different issues, and it's everything from Medicare for All to racial justice issues like reparations and police accountability. We're talking about the CCRB bill, environmental justice, and we fought back against a number of different fossil fuel projects. I know a lot of our members and allies and leaders in Middlesex County were very involved with pushing back on the Woodbridge power plant that was recently nixed. I think it was maybe 4 or 6 months ago. So kudos to them for that. But yeah, we do a bunch of this different stuff. And our overall theory of change, we're a loose membership organization. We have county chapters, we've got a state network, and our whole theory of change is based around an inside-outside strategy, where the idea is that the power right now within our political system lies with the two major parties, so the Republicans and the Democrats. And now, me personally, I'll speak for myself here. I tend to write off the Republican Party a little bit because they've kind of gone a little fascist. But I believe there are elements of the Democratic Party that is salvageable. And I also know that there's a lot of power there, particularly in a blue state like New Jersey, where we get 60% of our turnout, our voter turnout votes Democrat across the state generally each year, year after year after year. So you do need to organize power on the inside within the party that is salvageable, as well as organizing out in the community. Because if you're not organizing out in the community, you're not building power of your own. You're not building power with the people. You're not putting regular working class people and marginalized communities first and foremost. So that's generally why and how we organize. And I highlighted some of the issues, but overall, it's to drive change in a direction that prioritizes regular people, working class people, Black and brown folks, women, LGBTQ plus folks, just across the board, right? Mm-hmm. And now to bring it back to what you were talking about, Zaid, the line, right? That has been a thorn in the side of pretty much everyone to the left of center in New Jersey. And I say to the left of center, referring to the leadership of the Democratic Party as pretty much being center for decades. This has been around for decades. This is an institution that is the dragon in New Jersey politics. Like, everybody who wants to make real substantive change just kind of accepts that it's there and that we can't slay this thing and it's not going to happen until, there's been a legacy and a movement building over those decades that, since 2016 happened, was somewhat reinvigorated, right? And particularly since the 2020 election has really picked up a lot of steam. And there has been a recent legal approach that's been taken in the past 4 years that is proving to be pretty successful. And now this is one of the major impetuses for why we organize within the Democratic Party structure, is because to peel this back, like you were talking about, what we're talking about here is how the ballot is structured for your Democratic and Republican primaries. Now, as an organization, we're primarily concerned with the Democratic primary, but it does affect both parties' primaries. So you're going to see this when you go to vote in June, right? And that election, you pick who is going to represent the Democratic or the Republican Party in the November general election. So this can be really, really important because power brokers around the state use the redistricting commissions, which happen once every 10 years to draw districts, right? And that's done with a bipartisan committee. And that committee is made up of half Democrats, half Republicans. So they're the ones with the seats at the table, and they're appointed by the statewide parties. So they draw the districts. So there are very, very few competitive districts, like very, very few, particularly at the state legislative level, but also at the congressional level. And they'll typically pick like 1 or 2 districts at the congressional level and say, hey, we're going to go fight here. We're going to go have a competitive campaign here. And then they'll pick a handful at the state level and say, yeah, we're going to have a competitive election here. But everywhere else, it's kind of pre-decided who's going to win. So that takes your primary election and means that's where you get to pick your elected official, because the Democrat's going to win in the general. The Republican's going to win in the general. And then what they use to control the outcomes in the primary election has to do with the way that they draw the ballot. And I've often referred to this as gerrymandering of the ballot. Same way they gerrymander districts. They'll draw them out in a certain way so that they know what's going to happen. They'll draw out the ballots in a certain way so that psychologically people are disproportionately guided to vote for certain candidates that are on one cohesive column or row that we call the county ballot line. They look more legitimate. They look like the real Democrats, quote unquote. Never mind the fact that legally you have to be a Democrat to be on that ballot. You cannot be a Democratic primary election candidate without being registered as a Democrat. I know because I've run on those ballots as a county committee member. Granted, I'm way down at the bottom, but that's one of the most frustrating things when you go around knocking doors. These ballots are so confusing that some folks will go to the polls and just assume, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for the Democrats because I'm a registered Democratic voter, thinking they're going to vote down that column, never realizing what they're doing is they're playing into the hands of the folks who are keeping the very changes that they support the Democratic Party because of from happening. They're preventing that exact change. So that's what we're talking about here. This is an institution that is unique to New Jersey. We're the only state that does it this way. And if you happen to be in that one column, if you happen to be in that one row, whatever it is, if you're on the line, the most recent studies show that you have an average advantage of 38 percentage points. Now, there's a big range there, right? It goes from like double-digit advantages at the low end, if I remember right, like, say 10%, maybe like high single digits, up to like 79 or 80% advantage in some of the outlier elections or some of the ones towards the end of that range. But 38% gives a really good sense of how powerful this thing is. It's been over 50 years since a federal candidate's been able to win a New Jersey primary election without being on the line in at least one of the counties they're running in.
How many years? Say that again.
Over 50 years at the federal level, it's undefeated.
You wasn't even born.
No.
Mm-hmm. And people wonder why. They're just having a light moment for me. Just give you a chance to catch your breath. People wonder why. Jersey's referred to as the Soprano State. I mean, there's many levels.
It's not just a nickname. It's real. It's freaking real. I've been using that line a lot lately.
Coming right behind you, we got CJ Griffin talking about Oprah. So we getting it in tonight.
You got the Oprah person.
Yeah,
she is the Oprah person.
Yeah.
Does she use
years?
I don't know.
Someone without being on, without having the line, without having the sanction and the insular protection of the county machine of that given area to even have a chance.
And to just dig in a little bit to what you said here is you need the protection of that county machine, right? What does that mean? How do you get that, right? Every March, certain counties around the state will go to their party convention. So I'm a member of the Mercer County Democratic Committee. I ran off the line for this office. The further down the ballot you are, the smaller your district, the easier it is to win off the line. So it's a lot easier for me to win that race than it is for, say, a congressional candidate or, either Andy Kim or Patricia Campos Medina or Larry Ham to be able to win off the line for Senate because you got a whole state to worry about, right? But those conventions, you'll have an endorsement vote, and every single district rep, right? These are folks that are elected 2 per election district. That's kind of these tiny little voting districts that they use to decide who goes to what polling place, right? They're really small. Like it could be a few blocks in certain cities, right? So you could. I know there's literally a district in Hamilton, the town I live in. The whole voting district is just one senior community. So these are small. These are very small. And you'll end up with like a town like Hamilton's the 9th largest in the state. We have a good amount of Democratic voters here. So we have 65 districts now. They just recently added another district. To give you a sense of things, what's another town that I know the number of? Robbinsville, which is right next door, which is a much smaller town, has 9 districts. So, but at these conventions, each March, all of those representatives will go. And if you live in the district that has an election that year, you will vote on an endorsement in that district. And whoever wins that vote gets the line.
Yeah.
And that basically turns your primary election, which is, hundreds of thousands of voters if you're going for a whole county a lot of times, right? Democratic voters and any unaffiliated to declare. It turns that into an election of 500 people across Mercer County because there's about 500 folks who will get a vote at a Mercer County Democratic Convention. Highly undemocratic. And that is the best case scenario you're going to get if you have a county line ballot with this process. Because Essex County, for example, it's one guy. One guy picks who gets endorsed, and that's Leroy Jones. It's your county chair, and that's it. Now, that county chair is elected by all those Democratic committee reps. But guess who also has to run on a county line ballot? Those Democratic committee reps.
That's right.
So they're a pre-selected group who already got his endorsement in order to be able to get back into their seats. And they know if they don't support him and the challenger that they are supporting loses, they lose too, because they're going to get kicked out of their seat 9 times out of 10. So you can see how this is a mechanism for control for powerful people, and it becomes a form of incumbency protection, right? So this means that elected officials across the state of New Jersey, particularly at the state level, are insulated from accountability to their voters. And if we have that, if we don't have an ability to hold our elected officials accountable at the ballot box, it's so hard to win when you do public pressure campaigns because your bar is just ratcheted up so much higher to the point that you have to have such a groundswell that either they're worried about losing a general election if they have a competitive general election, which is unlikely, or they have to be almost worried for their safety right? It has to get to that point. They have to really start to be worried about something. And this is the biggest foundational reason why it's so hard to make substantive, progressive, leftist, socialist, whatever word you want to use, change in this state. This is the first step to making that possible. It does not do it by itself. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of work you got to put in after this. But this kind of lets you play in the sandbox, right? It lets you play in the electoral sandbox and be able to build your sandcastle and be able to actually play the game to build real substantive power through the electoral sphere. Because there's a lot of other movement work you got to do if you want to build power for the people. But
absolutely,
this is a tool that we've been denied for a long, long time. And I believe it's a necessary tool because people are taught that if they want to make change on at any reasonable scale, you go to the electoral arena. And the left hasn't been able to compete there in New Jersey because of this. If we get rid of the line, and this latest ruling from the judge is like, it's on life support, man. The line's on life support.
Yeah. So let's
it opens that all up. So
yeah,
it's revolutionary. It's for our political system.
That's a serious big deal. Absolutely. So let's unpack this legal strategy that has emerged in the last few years. Let's talk about these lawsuits and these recent decisions and just where this thing is at. You mentioned the judge's decision. Tell everybody what that is. Let's go back.
I'm gonna just give you real quick at the start. There are two main lawsuits that folks should be paying attention to, right? There are other lawsuits that are tangential that may, come to play at some point, but it's unlikely. The two main lawsuits are with the same judge, although now the one that's had a decision has been appealed to a different court. Same judge, same legal team on the plaintiff side, right? So you're dealing with very, very similar circumstances. What I refer to as line lawsuit 1.0, which I am a plaintiff on, is Christine Conforti et al. Use et al. To refer to the other people who are plaintiffs in the case, right? But Christine Conforti was a candidate for Congressional District 4 in 2020. I was involved with her campaign. I volunteered for her while I was running for Democratic County Committee, which is why I'm on the suit. We filed later 5 other candidates and New Jersey Working Families as the organizational plaintiff. They've been footing the bill, which, kudos and thank you. And a shout out to them and their director, Antoinette Miles, because she's awesome. But that case makes a very, very similar legal argument, if not the same basic legal argument, as what I refer to as line lawsuit 2.0, new and improved, that Andy Kim, Sarah Schoengood, and Carolyn Rush have brought recently. Now, the difference is time frame, right? All the candidates on the suit that I'm on, line lawsuit 1.0, again, back in 2020, we filed after our elections were done. So there was nothing pressing, right? There's no imminent harm that the court would need to take action to avoid. It's already happened, right? We're basically saying that we need this to stop moving forward because it will continue to impact us in future elections, which it will, in my opinion. But for line lawsuit 2.0, when Andy Kim and Sarah Schoengood and Carolyn Rush filed this case, this was before their election. Now, what they filed for was to ask for something called a preliminary injunction. Now, big words, right? Really simple. It just says we got to do something now, right? It's that there is an imminent harm that is going to happen. It's irreparable, meaning you can't fix it after it's happened, and immediate, which means it's happening like immediately, right? Harm that is going to be inflicted upon the folks filing suit. If the court does not take action. And therefore, we are filing to say, hey, you got to fix this right now. We don't have time for a full-blown legal proceeding with discovery, with everything else. We got to just do this as quick as possible. The judge has to hear the arguments. And what this means is your burden of proof, what you have to be able to prove is so high, it has to be so definitive that the judge is almost infinitely confident, right? Like he's incredibly, incredibly confident that this will succeed if it goes through the full legal process. So you're likely to win on the merits, right? And that by taking this step, that it's not hurting anything else. So they refer to something called the state's interest, which is basically to say that, the state has to run an election, right? You're not getting in the way of them running the election so much that it's going to cause other problems. And that is what the legal team needed to prove. And a massive shout out to the 3 lawyers who have been on this since we filed that first suit, even beforehand. doing a lot of the prep work. Brett Pugach, Yael Bromberg, and Flavio Comuves. They are the 3 best elections attorney in the state. No shade to Scott Salmon. He's pretty great too. But like those 3 are, I know it's cheesy to say it, but they're absolute rock stars. They're amazing. This does not happen without them. They are the 3 people who you should remember and to give the most credit to for all of this, hands down. They built this case. They built the legal theory behind this case. And there's a lot of other people involved. It's a movement, right? There's a billion people. But if there are 3 people I got to highlight, it's them. And they did it, right? They went into court with this and they proved it to such a ridiculous degree that the judge said, yeah, no, like this is, I can't not do something. I have to prevent this harm. So that's and they won the preliminary injunction. Now it's a lot more complicated than that simply because this was happening in real time. And there was about a 3-week period where like every Sunday, some insane, crazy news dropped. Like there was a bomb dropped on us like 3 Sundays in a row or something. It was, let me walk you through that real quick because this revolved around the Senate race.
Right.
And
right.
You know, Gold Bars Menendez, right? You when we had that indictment come down, right? That's the start of all this, right? This does not happen if Menendez does not get indicted for all the gold bars and nonsense. So it's kind of crazy that this is what started it, right? But that happens. And Andy Kim makes a snap decision and says, I'm running for Senate because this is ridiculous. Somebody has to challenge this guy. We got to push the envelope. Because, you know, I disagree with Andy Kim on a number of issues. He is very much to my right politically, but he is good on anti-corruption and he's good on voting rights. And every indication.
I'm trying to get him on, so we haven't been able to get him on. I've had some conversations with his office, but haven't been able to pin him down yet. But go ahead.
Yeah. So when he makes this decision, right, he didn't ask any of the party bosses. He didn't go get permission from anybody. He just did it. And that pissed some people off. Now, I've heard rumors that behind closed doors, the intent was to have Menendez either run or drop out late and then have Tammy Murphy file because, you know, the governor was and her were already kind of kicking the cans and saying, hey, you know, we want her to be senator. So she had kind of gotten it into her head that she was going to be senator. So the party bosses decided, okay, yeah, no, we'll get on board for this. Sure. Because, you know, we can't make it a precedent that people are just going to run without asking us. So how dare they, right? It's just wild to get inside of some of their heads sometimes. But that is what leads to Tammy Murphy in November announcing she's running for Senate. And instantly, same day, when she announced, there were about like 6 or 7 counties whose chairs endorsed her. So she automatically, like she announces she has these lines because her husband's the most powerful person in the state. He's the governor. We have the most powerful governor in the country out of pretty much any state. And this is already a guy who's Goldman Sachs, you know, millionaire, billionaire, wherever he falls on the scale.
That's right.
Forget that about that office anyway. Like he won the primary because he donated a ton of money to all the party committees around the state during the whole process to determine who the gubernatorial candidate would be in 2017. So he's already got a lot of this power. He's got money. So, you know, they're able to just kind of line up his wife. Now, a lot of folks, when this happened, thought Andy Kim's campaign was dead on arrival, right? A few of us who have some familiarity with Andy Kim's campaign, and I have friends who've worked for his campaigns. I know some people in his office. We're a little less bullish on Murphy because she got these lines, because the level of enthusiasm amongst the Democratic base, particularly what I like to call the progressive on vibes crowd, right? It's less about policy. It's more about how you speak and how you present yourself and are you a nice guy, which they can be very frustrating at times, but they were very excited about Andy Kim. Very excited. There was a lot of support for Andy Kim. There was stuff happening. And this is a guy, he's one of the few people in New Jersey I can look at, a few elected officials and say, yes, you know how to run a field campaign. You know how to message to voters. You know how to win an election because he's done it. He did it in the general election a couple of times in competitive elections, right? He unseated Tom MacArthur, who was an absolute nut job. Pretty much proto-fascist or fascist, whatever you want to call it, right? He was very, very pro-Trump, awful guy. In a red district in Ocean County, right? It was a purple-leaning red district or a red-leaning purple district, whatever you want to call it. But he won that election. So he knows how to run field operations and messaging.
Yes.
So looking at this and then knowing, hey, there are some counties around New Jersey that are going to do conventions. And a lot of the people I know who are in party committee seats in those counties really like Andy Kim and do not like Tammy Murphy. They don't like the nepotism pick, right? There's a path here. A bunch of folks I know were looking at this and saying, yeah, there's a path here. He's got to win almost all of the conventions to get him close enough. He doesn't need all the lines. He does not need the line to win, but he needs enough of them to be competitive. And that's exactly what he did. He won just about every competitive convention except for Bergen County and Somerset County. And Bergen was pre-decided because the chair up there, Paul Giuliano, he basically has everybody. It's a patronage system. So yes, you have a vote, but not only is it a patronage system, so all the people in the seats like know who they need to support, but on top of that, there's a thing at that convention where if someone doesn't show up, right, somebody in a seat doesn't show up, the chair gets to replace them with a person of their choice from a pool of substitutes. So he just automatically gets as many votes as people don't show up. So it was Bergen likes to brag that they have the most democratic convention. They don't. They're just quieter and more clever about how they rig things. Somerset, the problem in Somerset was there was no secret ballot vote. So everybody knew that Peg Schaefer, the chair there, was going to see who they voted for. And Peg Schaefer went hard for Tammy Murphy. And it was really wild because she was saying the quiet part out loud because in her endorsement statement, she talked about how much money that the Murphys had poured into the party there and how many contracts and things that they got, and how many people got placed in these seats. It was really crazy because she's like, that's corruption, right, guys? I'm not the only one seeing this. That's not just me, right? So those were the two that Kim lost. Everywhere else he won. Everywhere else that had a real convention, he won. So that put him in a position to be able to win the election. And then come February, as this is starting to happen, as you're going through your convention, so this actually predates a lot of those convention results. He filed the federal lawsuit, line lawsuit 2.0, new and improved, on very similar grounds, where the basic idea is that whether he is on or off the line in a given county, it does not matter, because either he is forced to associate with candidates he does not know, does not support, may have campaigned against him, may continue to campaign against him. If Murphy's in the race and off the line, he's forced to associate with them. He's forced to be on the same column. He doesn't want to be on the same column with them. He's not running with them. But if he doesn't take the line, Murphy gets the line. His opponent gets the line. And that puts him at a severe disadvantage. So if we take free speech to include where you choose to be on the ballot and who you choose to associate with, that is violating candidates' First Amendment rights to free speech, whether you're on the line or off the line. It violates everybody's. So that is one of the core legal arguments. And as this whole process proceeded, the county party chairs started to realize that, oh, maybe we're in trouble here, guys, because those 3 Sundays I talked about. The first one was the Attorney General of New Jersey coming out, and the day before they had a hearing in court so that the defense could cross-examine the plaintiff's witnesses, the defense of the county parties, and really the county clerks were who was being sued here. And plaintiffs are Kim, Schoengood, and Rush, right? Mm-hmm. They had this day scheduled in court, and the Attorney General needed to file if he was going to intervene or not. Is he going to say, yeah, no, this is fine. How we do this is fine. The line is okay. Or was he not going to do that? And what he did is he sent a letter to the court, not only declining to intervene, but calling the line unconstitutional. Yep.
Is that the same Matthew Platskin that can't find nothing wrong with police when they're killing people all over the state?
It's wild, man.
But that's the first Sunday. Keep going. You got 2 more.
It breaks your brain when you do this type of organizing, this type of work, is because every person contains multitudes, and people could be so good on one thing, and then they're just terrible on this other issue. And it's just it breaks your brain. And just could you have a consistent philosophy, please? Please. But that's getting distracted. In any case, this is the same Matt Placken, yes. And he did the right thing here because a lot of legal experts would have told you the New Jersey Attorney General is obligated to intervene to defend existing statute and laws, and he did it. So that was the first of that big bomb dropping, and that kind of really put the county party chairs on notice. And when that happens, you go to the next day in court, and Judge Karashi, who I'm going to call Judge Q, I hope he doesn't mind. I think it sounds cool.
That's the story in itself.
Yeah, that day in court was wild, but I'll give you the real short version there. You could tell he wasn't buying their BS. You can I was in the courtroom that day, and I heard a lot of things that I have said or that other organizers have said about, okay, why do you need to be on a column? Why can't you just have the slogan and then go campaign for the people you endorsed? And he says that. I'm just like, thank you. Yes, you're getting it. Thank you. There were a number of moments like that, although the funniest part of the whole thing, if you ask me, was the fact that there were so many defense attorneys because there were so many different defendants that they couldn't fit in the part of the courtroom they needed to be in. They had to have about 10 of them go to the jury box.
Can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. No, you really can't.
Hold on a second, Joe. I just want to acknowledge CJ coming into the space. CJ, you hear him, right?
I'm hearing. I'm enjoying it.
We're trying to about as much dirt as we can in a little bit of time we got.
I'm trying to move fast. It's just
go ahead.
There's a lot of interesting stuff.
We're getting there. Yeah, as you were.
So after that day in court, keep in mind that day went from 10 a.m. or 10:30, 10 a.m., 10 a.m. Let's say 10 a.m. Through to about 8 o'clock at night. It was an all-day affair. Yeah. I was there for most of it. I had to step out to get food and just breathe for a little bit. But following on that, you go later in the week, and then you get to the next Sunday, and we find out that after a meeting at the law firm that was representing a bunch of the county clerks, with representatives there from at least 5 or 6 of the county party chairs who would endorse Tammy Murphy, they had a meeting with the Murphy campaign. And shortly after that, she drops out. Now, why would she drop out? First off, it was a question of viability. There's likely part of it is she didn't think she could win, right? And then the second thing is they then turn around and offered Andy Kim the line. And part of getting Tammy Murphy to drop was basically saying, hey, we'll give you the line. And then they also asked him to drop the suit, probably. Now, he did not drop the suit, but he did take the line in a number of counties. And now the thinking here from the party chairs is that, now Kim doesn't have standing. He has the line, so he's not harmed. But remember, the legal argument, it's not that you are only harmed if you don't get the line. It's you're harmed no matter what. It's a heads I win, tails you lose type of conundrum that these party chairs and that these party committees place candidates in. It's either you take the line and you're associated with a bunch of folks that you may not like, you may not support, you may not align with, and who may be campaigning against you. Or you don't, and you're at a massive disadvantage, and you're very likely to lose, right? So they thought this would hurt Andy Kim's standing, and it didn't. It really didn't, because it didn't undermine the legal argument at all. And he also declined the line in Camden County, which just is kind of hilarious, because if there's a short list of the worst abuses of the county line ballot, Camden's at the top. Right there. Yes. It's kind of a nice bit of Schadenfreude. Now they're in column 4 on their own county ballot, which is kind of hilarious. So that happens, and then you fast forward, to I think it was the following Friday, and we get the decision that comes down, and they grant the preliminary injunction. And I read that the judge's decision on that. It was an unequivocal victory. There was maybe 1 or 2 things that he did not side with the plaintiffs. It was he gave some moderate credibility to a couple of the defense witnesses, but largely speaking, he found all the plaintiff witnesses eminently credible, the reports credible, said lots of good things about the legal arguments, and decided every single factor in favor of the plaintiffs. It was an unequivocal. You can't hope for anything better. This was the best case scenario you could hope for. So of course, a bunch of the clerks appealed, said, "Oh, we can't do it, guys. We're sorry. We can't do this in time." And that was much of the basis of their argument against this was a feasibility argument. They couldn't change the ballot. Never mind that this layout is much simpler and is done in other states. Mm-hmm. Steadily over time, they got pressured into dropping out of the suit. They had to print the ballots. Now we're going to see office block ballots on the Democratic side this primary. Now they're still appealing, though, not the clerks, but the Camden County Democratic Committee, which was the only party originally in the suit, or who chose to file as a defendant and to intervene as a defendant. The Middlesex County Democratic Party has now done the same and has hired a lawyer who is a former Obama Solicitor General who's famous for defending Nestle's right to use child slavery overseas and still not seeing any penalties here. So yeah, that's the guy they got. His name's Neil Katyal. I probably butchered that. But now we're at a place where there was a hearing this morning in Philadelphia with the appeals court, Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And it seemed like pretty standard stuff. They definitely were pressing the county parties on a few things. They pressed the plaintiffs on a few things. but we'll see where the ruling is on that. Now, I do want to stress, this is only for this primary.
Election. Right.
Only for this election. So there is still work to be done, because this sets a legal precedent, and it's a very, very strong one as long as it holds up on appeal. And I find it hard to believe that it wouldn't, given how emphatic the decision from Judge Q was. Assuming it holds up, you're looking at a legal precedent that is incredibly strong and is going to either force a decision from Conforti to decide the matter going forward, or some other legal action, or you're going to see the legislature try to pass a bill. And what I'm going to make clear is we really don't want a bill coming out of the legislature, because all of those folks, they've been in this system. They know that this is what takes care of them. And there's exceptions, right? There are some good eggs, but for the most part, you're talking about a group of folks who will move to protect their own power. And they're going to look for whatever mechanism they can use to replace the county line ballot. I've heard conversations around putting an asterisk next to the name of the incumbent, an asterisk next to the name of the county party endorsed candidate. I've heard about highlighting them on the ballot, actually highlighting candidates in yellow, which is nuts. But they're tossing around all this different stuff. This should come from the courts. It is. There's a lot of historic precedent for voting rights cases being decided through the courts that then precipitates action to fix the issue, to remedy the issue. And then once the courts say you have to do this or you cannot do this, however they frame it, right? Then if you want to codify it in legislation, that's fine. But you have to, this should first come from the courts. And I'm cautiously optimistic that given the strength of the preliminary injunction and the decision on the preliminary injunction, what you're going to see is further legal action, and that's going to hopefully involve the Conforti case. Again, I'm a plaintiff on that. I don't want to speak too much out of turn on that, but I would suspect there's going to be action between line lawsuit 1.0 and line lawsuit 2.0 to wrap this thing up in a nice tight bow somehow, but I'm not a lawyer. I know we've got a lawyer on here.
We got a couple lawyers. You got CJ coming in, and CJ, you can jump in. You got thoughts on this? You can.
I know you're not an elections attorney.
It's all good.
It's all good. I'm not an elections attorney. I'm watching and cheering and honoring the democracy work is so important. Oh, goodness. I think folks in other states. I didn't grow up in New Jersey, and I didn't vote the first time in New Jersey. So I know I am a lawyer. I've received a lot of education. I still have to look at the ballot every time I go to figure out how the hell, who are these people? How do you vote? Where, it's confusing.
We make it really hard for people. You shouldn't have to do rocket science to figure out who you're going to vote for, or never mind who you're going to vote for. You shouldn't have to do rocket science to figure out who's running for what office. That's the type of ballot we're dealing with, because you can't tell who's running for what office half the time. And I can pull up a visual if you guys want to have it.
Yeah, no, we
we're over time. I know.
It's crazy. But I want to appreciate you, Joe. Appreciate what you've done on the ground and everybody. There's been a number of fights. Just going into this, coming out of the last legislative session, and Oprah. We've been rumbling on a number of fronts, and I just really appreciate how everybody has been. Enough bodies for the most part have been coming together, coming out of those silos that sometimes we can get caught up in, to really try and get some things done and the change and the shift. Hopefully we have the ingredients for a real paradigm shift, and really making space for a progressive agenda in this up south state.
Yes, and I think what you're going to see in this primary for those who are on the ballot, and if this ballot format, if we're forced to keep this, which hopefully we are, and we're forced to get in line with all 49 other states to have reasonably fair ballots, you're going to start to see a number of upsets, because there are a surprisingly small number of people in the political establishment that know how to actually run field campaigns and know how to run effective electoral campaigns, because they haven't had to.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot of people get caught with their pants down. Now that's only going to happen for maybe 2-3 years, and then they're going to start getting used to this new meta of how elections are going to be. They're going to start really leveraging the power of money as best they can, and that's beatable. Don't get me wrong, that is beatable, but they're going to learn how to use what they have.
One of the things we need to do with you,
there's a window here that's going to present itself. And if you want to run for office at any point, anybody out there, if you're a people first kind of person and you want to run for office, now's the time because they don't know how to deal with this stuff right now.
Right. And one of the things that you've done, right? And I'm saying you know, the collective you as well as the personal you, right, is that y'all really broke ground in those open spaces in different county formations.
Yep.
Right. And this is another place of, you know, tactics and strategy that that's you know, germane for another conversation for sure.
Definitely.
Coming forward. So it's good to have you back. Good to have you on.
Great to
Appreciate
be on here.
the work. And you want to
great transition.
Huh?
I'll give you a great transition to CJ. The line is one of the reasons that we have this crappy Oprah bill, because these elected representatives don't think they have to be accountable to the people. This ballot changes. People are going to start running on, hey, you passed an Oprah bill. That means I can't go get the stuff I need to do my work. I can't get the stuff I need to do the activism I do. I can't get the stuff I need for my community, right? I can't get the information, the basic information. It's crucial for police accountability work. And you've got the best person to talk about Oprah and police accountability that you could find on here. And you know that. It's why we had the Elections Transparency Act, which is the most Orwellian misnomer you're going to find, because it basically just opened up the floodgates for massive amount of money.
Yes.
It's why you have all these bad bills. It's why we can't get real racial justice and police accountability legislation, because our legislature is 70-something% white. Population in New Jersey is about 50% white. It's you can go to the figures on how underrepresented women are. You can go to the figures on all of the bills that have just been left to languish. Meanwhile, we're trying to push a school vouchers bill. That's like Koch brothers Heritage Foundation stuff. That's how you destroy public education. And I'm not trying to say public education doesn't have problems. It does. But this is like trying to heal a patient with bloodletting. You're going to kill the patient before anything good happens. Like, you're going to pull a whole bunch of money out of the public system. It's just awful. There's a number of different things. And it's just wild to me that the elected officials in this state are so blind to what the people of this state want. And so blind to how it's looking like there's going to be real accountability now. That they're pushing school vouchers and they're pushing an Oprah bill that's going to make things incredibly opaque. It's just so tone deaf and stupid. But yeah, so there's your transition.
No, wait. Ed's got to ask you the ritual question. Then we're gonna jump. We're gonna get down with CJ.
So CJ, I'm sure you. First off, you know, thank you for coming back on the show. As you know, I enjoy having you on, man, because you're a wealth of information. So you know, usually I'm taking notes, man. I don't even want to tell you. You're saying so much stuff. I'm just writing, man. You know, I felt like I was back in law school. I'm like, oh man, what did he just say? I got
neater than my notes.
But you know, you've been on the show before, so you know, what are you currently listening to? What's keeping you going? What's motivating you?
Me?
No, CJ.
So it's directed at me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm listening to is something I keep going back to a bunch. There's an artist, a Japanese artist called Nujabes, right? His real name was Seba Jun. Does a lot of like music that's really good for focus music, a lot of really good beats. And there's one song in particular that I always keep coming back to because I like the lyrics. I like there's a rapper, Substantial. He pulls on for this one. It's called Think Different. It's off of what the heck was which album was that? Metaphorical Music.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's from back in 2011. It's a while back, but anytime I got to get stuff done and I really need to focus, that's an artist I go to.
Okay.
Also, I just want to chill. It's really good chilling.
Say the name again.
Nujabes. It's Nujabes.
Okay, Nujabes. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate having you on again.
Happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me on.
And hopefully we are close to we're near at the beginning of the end of the line.
It's music to my ears, man. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right on.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah.
Bye,
CJ.
Hey.
Oh man, we got a lot going on.
It's been a busy month.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
As we're trying to get to the end of the line, but we still got to deal with these, you know, this other layer of corruption insulation, right?
Yeah, it's all democracy work. It's
Oh my God, yes.
People are more engaged. People are more engaged in wanting more democracy than ever. And unfortunately, the government, no matter whether they're Democrats or Republicans, there's still like this desire to sort of tamp down on democracy when you feel like it's exposing something you don't want exposed, or when it's voting for something you don't, not voting for you. So politicians of all stripes are kind of not doing the democracy work that they need to be doing.
Now, Oprah, just transparency, we haven't really dealt with Oprah here in this space the way we would have liked. We've only dealt with it passingly in the context of issues.
Yeah, police.
To address. Right. But I just in part of our appreciation of you and what you've done, the case that you brought in Elizabeth in Union County, right, with our good friend Rich Rivera, and we don't have that many good friends in law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Is something that we want to lift up in our introduction, and we probably should let you unpack that case, because that's that was a space where we won, right? And had some challenges, right? And how do we continue to protect that kind of win, and how does that lead to where we're at now? Now, the other part of this, folks know that the police accountability work that I've been involved with, and we've had Lawrence Ham on this show very regularly, is that we had the oh boy, I'm trying to remember the young man's name. I just had a senior moment. It was killed up in Lyndhurst.
That was Ashford.
Rashad Ashford.
Yeah, that was actually one of my very first cases, maybe my second or third case, and my first police records case, and it went to the Supreme Court. Yeah.
That's that, and we went to the court. We were literally in the court.
Yeah,
for all of that and whatnot. So just so why don't we just walk back from those cases and let you tell you where we are now.
Sure. So I think, we're going to talk about Oprah, but let's define it for people, because not everyone knows what it means. And they probably know about it in a general concept and maybe a different term. So Oprah in New Jersey stands for the Open Public Records Act. We shorthanded Oprah, OPRA. But other people, you might know about it like Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA is what it's called at the federal level. Every state has its own public records law that sets the contours of what you can access. And in New Jersey, Oprah is the statute that sets the contours of what you can access. So it's a statute that says these, records are generally available to the public, but here's some exemptions. And so, and they're supposed to respond to you in 7 days. They never do, but you're supposed to be able to file a request with your local agency, your police department, your clerk, the county prosecutor, the state agencies, and ask for records. And they're supposed to give them to you or tell you why you can't have them, what exemption applies. And so since I guess it's been 12 years now, 11 years now, I've been litigating cases when citizens or residents or the newspapers, media, online media are denied access. I've been litigating those cases, and I've litigated a lot of police cases. It's particularly, I'm most interested in police transparency, but I litigate all sorts of cases, even about contracts and purchases and that sort of thing too. So that's sort of the big picture of what Oprah is. And there are records. They're called public records because they belong to us, the public, and the government keeps them for us. They're the custodians of the records, but we have a right to them. And so right now there are bills pending in the legislature that were introduced last month in a rush without any notice. They introduced them. A couple of days later, they scheduled 2 hearings on the same day, and then they were going to try to jam it through for a vote that week. And thankfully there was so much opposition that we put a halt on it, but the process is still going. They still seem like they're intent on passing the bills, and the bills are just horrendous. We can talk about specific provisions, but they really roll back access in like horrible ways, and put up all these obstacles and hurdles to get records. And they do nothing to give us anything affirmative. They don't benefit transparency in any way. So there's a large group of people that have been involved in fighting it. I think you're on mute.
I'm steady talking. Y'all hear everything I said. Yeah, and then the bill numbers is S 2930 and A 4045 in the Senate and the Assembly. So we really got to really push on that. And a lot of folks have been getting down recently. I was trying to get Antoinette Miles to come on with you. I got my colleagues from the ACLU who've had their hands full on the family front.
Yeah, everybody's full. Everybody, Antoinette's in the line fight. So I know.
Yes.
Everybody, everything's happening at once, and everybody's burnt out
in real time.
Which is part of the strategy to wear us down until we can't, take care of ourselves and resist as much as we want to. But there is a lot of resistance. There was actually a poll today that came out showing that 81% of New Jerseyans are against the this Oprah bill. They want the government to keep their hands off our public records, not to amend the bill, not to amend the law. They want these bills to be dead in the water. So, unfortunately,
and break that poll down, because that poll is saying a lot. It's not, there's not a concentration of a certain segment of the state that's saying that. This is across the spectrum.
Yeah, it's everybody. It's Democrats, Republicans, all races, all genders. It's not like there's one group of people that are weighting the numbers. It's, just universally disliked bill, and people don't want it to pass. I don't know that the legislature cares so much, but I think that the fact that the line is on the line will make them care a little bit more, because there are, assembly elections next year, and people, I think, will remember, and there'll be people that run on this as a platform, because the reason why 81% of people are against it is because no one likes government secrecy. It's just not popular to say, like, we want to be more secretive, or we want to keep records from you. And when you do that, even if you're not hiding something, if you're secretive around records or fight for someone to get something, then people just assume that you're hiding something.
That's right. So I just, just three key areas that we were concerned with. I was also I met Terrence McDonald at a rally this week, and we totally didn't realize who the hell we were talking to each other. Then I said, "Oh man, you just taught that goddamn op-ed." Right on. I said, "You're gonna start hearing from me."
Yeah.
He lit up like a Christmas tree. And I'm saying that to say, because there's and we were in a very joking but very real way in terms of the political culture of the state. This is one of the many reasons why Jersey is referred to as a soprano state, and the lack of transparency is what fosters corruption and allows corruption to fester once it gets in the mix. Right? Yeah. We're talking about press access to this information, basic civilian access to this basic information. Those of us who are concerned with both police and elected official accountability, and the management of a given city or municipality's resources, right?
Yeah.
Corruption is mismanagement of resources. If we can't see it, we don't know what's going on. So it's really fundamental. It's a fundamental space around what makes democracy have some level of decorum and transparency. But yet there's this dug in hostility towards making that what it ought to be. Now, we did have the Attorney General in the last conversation say that the line is unconstitutional, but Attorney General that is acting more like the Attorney General we know.
Yeah. I mean, during this fight, during this court battle, Terrence, he is the editor of New Jersey Monitor. He published an op-ed a couple of weeks ago because we won a lawsuit against the Attorney General, who refused to turn over some data about the Arrive Together program, which is where they pair a police officer and a mental health responder to respond to people in crisis. They've been heralding the program. They gave data to the Brookings Institute to write this report, which was glowing, and so
very conservative outlet, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so Terrence and another reporter from The Record requested the data, but they were denied. And so I sued for both of them. The Attorney General, their office opposed the lawsuit. They kept arguing there's no possible way that they could release this information and de-identify it. The judge reviewed it in camera, said, you know what, you can make all the redactions you think are necessary to, not make it anonymous and de-identify it. And they gave us the records, and like hardly any redactions were even necessary. So it's just, that's the kind of battles we have to fight against the attorney general, but also against, the state is somewhat better than all these local agencies. It can be like tooth or nail just to get the meeting minutes, let alone something, more substantive.
And I want to also acknowledge Dan Costa also did a study, police reform, right, last year on the question of that broken relationship that still exists here in Newark around the community trust in the Newark police, in spite of how far Newark is said to have gone in its reform effort as a consequence of the federal consent decree. And I've had some contact with him. I'm trying to get him into some public spaces with us to help continue to push these conversations further. So
yeah. I mean, I say, this bill to gut Oprah, yeah, it's gutting access to how our finances are managed and all that sort of stuff that we obviously should care about. Like, this government spends a lot of our money, like the taxes are too high, that sort of thing. But it's gutting Oprah means you're gutting police transparency, because the agencies that we have to fight against the most are always for police records. And so when you do things to make it harder to request records in general, it's going to be the police departments that take the most advantage of those new exemptions or the new hurdles and make us fight for them. And one of the things that the bill does that's really detrimental to transparency is it guts the fee shifting provision. So the fee shifting provision in Oprah, as well as in other statutes that are important, like the Civil Rights Act, the Law Against Discrimination, those sort of important laws, what they say is it allows an attorney like me, or there's a few other attorneys who do this work, to take a case and say to the requester, I know you don't have thousands of dollars to hire a lawyer and pay court filing fees to sue for public records, but I'm willing to take the case and not charge you anything, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to win. And when I win, the public agency has to pay the legal fees. And if I lose, then I write it off. So that fee shifting means that it's an incentive for the agencies to comply, because they don't want to be on the hook for fees, although they sadly still deny access too often. But it's also what allows you to enforce it. So if all of a sudden this fee shifting mechanism changes where fees are optional or worse, which are ideas floating out there, then all of a sudden it means that the police departments can be like, yeah, you know what, maybe we will deny access to this body cam, because what are you going to do? You can't afford to pay a few $1,000s for a lawyer. And, a lot of people can't afford to pay the $300 court filing fee. So police in particular are going to take advantage of the changes to the bill. And it's really disappointing, because you and me and a huge coalition of people have been advocating for the bill that Senator Weinberg introduced in 2020. Right after George Floyd was murdered, there was a bill introduced. Other states like New York immediately rushed to make their police disciplinary records and internal affairs records public. And Senator Weinberg introduced that bill. And we really believed that the legislature was going to do the right thing, because this is a Democratic legislature, and like they're talking about police reform, and it's a liberal state. And you know what? It's 4 years later, and they never gave it a hearing. That's and right. So instead of doing that basic work to catch up with Florida, like you can go to Florida and get these records, instead of catching up with that work.
The same state that got DeSantis, the knucklehead that don't want nobody reading books and all that.
Yeah, Florida's had these records open for a long time. I think most governments are sort of scaling back transparency because the whole nation is kind of anti-democracy right now. But Florida's internal affairs records have been open for a very long time. And so we're saying, just give us the same access in Florida and New York and a bunch of other states. But instead of doing that, they're like, you know what, let's instead pass this knuckleheaded bill to scale back access and make it totally, unlikely that police are going to comply. So many hurdles that makes it difficult to enforce. There's a lot of bad provisions in this bill, but I worry the most about about the fee shifting because, you know, I've been able to win those cases that you take those cases that you talked about all the way to the Supreme Court by getting us dash cams, use of force reports, the names of cops that shoot people, use of force reports that involved juveniles, body cams that involved, you know, the Trenton or the Ewing officers that were indicted for using force against the Black teenager, like on and on and on. So many police records cases that I was able to bring because of the fee shifting provision, because the individual didn't have the money to pay a lawyer. The media doesn't have the money to litigate these cases. You know, they're struggling. They don't have reporters. And so we're going to see a major step backwards in police transparency if these bills pass.
So where are the bills now, and what? And even before, let me just jump on and something else too that I really want to lift up that you just lifted up on Twitter a minute ago. That's important to appreciate. You came across. Let me get the number right. 174 agencies calling for resolutions around what you had been calling for, a commission to examine Oprah so it can be user friendly, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So let me put that in context. For many years, agencies have been complaining about Oprah. They don't like it. And it's not because, you know, sometimes they talk about commercial requesters and those sort of things. But when you take a look at some of those resolutions, they're just complaining about having to do their jobs and having to produce police reports and having to produce bills and budgets and meeting minutes and those sort of things. So for many years, because the legislature would not consider a bill to amend Oprah and gut it the way the League of Municipalities wants, and that was because Senator Weinberg was there to stop it. So for many years, instead, these agencies would pass this resolution that said, Oprah's a burden. Here's how many requests we get. Please form a commission to study it. Well, so there's I think 174 of them that I counted. We gathered them. So now that Senator Weinberg's not there, they don't need the commission anymore, right? They don't want to study it to find out what's the best way of doing it. The League of Municipalities had worked with lawmakers. That the Speaker of the Assembly represents more than 80 agencies. He's a lawyer. His firm represents more than 80 agencies. So they have the legislature's ear. And so instead of doing the commission that would study it, listen to experts, see what other states are doing, try to resolve some of the issues that exist that make a custodian's life harder while also expanding access, now they just, we're passing this bill to gut it and we're going to do it in a rush. And so I'm saying, you know what, if there's going to be changes to it, then all these agencies already wanted a commission. Let's do the commission.
Let's take our time and get it right.
Yeah, let's get it right. I mean, I'm not convinced based on reading the resolutions that there's a problem, but I do know that there are lots of ways that it's a problem for the public. Oprah says you're supposed to get the records in 7 days. It's impossible. It's like so rarely that you get the records in 7 days. You send the request and 10 minutes later they say, we're going to need an extension, and they extend it by 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks longer. But I think that there are lots of common sense solutions that would advance transparency and make a custodian's life easier. So if they had to publish every contract on their website, if they had to put up all the meeting minutes up, if they had to put
we are in the 21st century and we're online nowadays, aren't we?
Yeah. So if they had to put that stuff up, it means people wouldn't need to file the Oprah request, which means the custodian doesn't have to deal with 10 people wanting the same document. So I think that there's ways to improve it, but this bill does nothing to improve access for the public. It's a lot of nonsense that the League of Municipalities and the Association of Counties and other government officials want, because they don't want to have to deal with the public coming to meetings and complaining about spending or complaining about taxes or weighing in on something they think is corrupt. They want more secrecy. They want people to go away.
Now, just on the life of the bill itself that we're talking about, who can we look to that is on our side, championing the protections that we're concerned about, and whose arms do we need to twist because they're very much on the wrong side of this train coming down the tracks in runaway fashion against the will of the public. And I'm going to say in a very transparent way, because we've got a local challenge on this. It is all politics are local, right? We're very concerned about our new senator who succeeded Senator Ronald Rice, Renee Burgess, who, from what I see, is a good person.
Yeah, she's my senator.
Right.
Well,
I need some help trying to figure this out.
So I will say this: Senator Burgess is on the committee that heard the bill, and so is Senator Ruiz. They both voted yes to pass it through the committee. Neither of them bothered staying for the whole hearing, so they didn't hear my testimony. They didn't hear the testimony of dozens of other people. I have not spoken with her. I agree; she seems like a nice person. I've emailed, I've sent my phone messages and emails and that sort of thing. My concern is that about her position on transparency could be that she was on the town council for the town of Irvington when they sued Eloise McDaniel, the 82-year-old woman, because they thought she filed too many Oprah requests. Fast forward then, I think about 3 years later or 2 years later, maybe, and the township of Irvington, like the comptroller said, they need to be under a financial monitor for mismanagement of finances. So Miss McDaniel was onto something and she got a lawsuit against her. So, that's my concerns, but I haven't spoken to her office on a specific position other than she voted it through committee. So that doesn't mean that lots of phone calls to her office would be pointless. I think it'd be helpful. People need to call in general, all these lawmakers. I know Assemblywoman Hall was reaching out, wanting to try to find ways to make amendments, that sort of thing. So call. I think the difficult thing is that it's hard to say who's for and against the bill, because I think it's just a small group of leadership that really wants this through. Other people don't necessarily understand why, but they're being pressured. And I don't know that those senators in that committee even had really read the bill before they had the hearing. And I don't think that anyone's seen like amendments or anything else since last month to be able to know where they would stand on it. But I think the only no votes in the committee in the Senate side were Senator Zwicker and the Republican senators. But on the Democrat side, Senator Zwicker was the only no vote.
So where's the bill now, and how is the clock ticking?
It's pulled. I think that they're working on amendments, and we just don't know. Like, there's nothing released now and nothing on the calendar for next week. But I think we just need to keep calling. Not only leadership, but also all those other lawmakers, so that they know this is unpopular. They can see the poll that says 81% of people are against it. And honestly, when can you get 81% of anybody to agree on anything these days? Right?
In New Jersey, to say the least.
Yeah, right. People are very polarized, but this is, I have, on my Twitter, I have like MAGA people retweeting me, and all the people that are against the line on the Democratic side. It's a massive coalition of people that hate this bill. So it's important that it's Democrats that are sort of leading the charge here. But it's important to know that this is also, there's some Republicans that they're trying to get on board with this, and the Republican base is very against it too. So we all need to put pressure on our elected officials, no matter what their political party is. Calling works, sending the emails works, signing the petitions. ACLU has one, League of Women Voters.
Right.
You need to hear. There's just
put them up in this moment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's just so many bad things about the bill. It's like to even go into, and what the message needs to be like, we want you to make things public. Give us more access, not less. Like, pass that police transparency bill.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Let's act like we're Democratic for a minute.
Right. And it's again, it's a nonpartisan issue. I've represented cops. I've represented citizens that are victims of police brutality. I've represented Republicans. I've represented Democrats. I've represented libertarians, everybody, reporters, everybody, because it's not something that transparency affects us all. And we should all just want a government that's open so that we can participate in and understand what's going on.
That's right, and have some semblance of trust, because it's our votes and our money.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. There are police, there are government employees. It's our money. There are records. It's just, but the attitude from the top is the opposite, that like, we are pains in the butts because we want to see that contract. We are pains in the butts because we want to know, we want to see the video of the police shooting. And honestly, I'm worried the most about that police videos, because there's a provision in the bill right now. Oprah says that if a record, if you request something that's voluminous or takes a substantial amount of time to produce, that they can charge you a service charge. It has to be reasonable. But it's kind of difficult to impose that. But we see agencies trying to do it with body cams. They try to say like, oh, we got to pay $600 if you want this body cam. And we can push back and threaten lawsuit and they'll back down. This bill says the fee that they want to impose now will be presumed to be reasonable. That means we can't challenge it. So what is the first thing police departments are going to start doing? Request any body cam. They're going to say, yeah, it's $800 because they know, like you know, most people can't pay $800 for a single video.
I got to lift up something that's been jumped in on the chat. I don't know this gentleman personally. Timothy Alexander Esquire is referring to the great C.J. Walker as a superhero. And I'm smiling at that because we definitely appreciate everything that CJ has done and continues to do. Ed, you want to jump in here as we begin to wind it down?
Yeah, you know, I'm curious to know. I hadn't had an opportunity to look it up, but who sponsored the bill?
So the sponsors are Paul Sarlo in Bergen in the Senate, and Joseph Danielson. I think he's out in Somerset in the Assembly. There's also now at least one Republican in the Assembly that's sponsoring it. Her name's Victoria Flynn. And I think it's just, I had to like tweet LOL when I saw it because she is the borough attorney for the borough of Spotswood. And I'm in a battle right now with the borough of Spotswood in court because allegedly a police officer filed a lawsuit, and I saw a stat that's more than 25% of their police officers are suing the borough itself or the mayor. So it's just very contentious there. And so there's a police officer that sued the mayor and the borough. And in this lawsuit, he said that the mayor's caught on tape saying these like really offensive and racist things about a black man who was a homeless man who was in the borough hall, and that it made borough employees feel unsafe, and she called the police and that sort of thing. So the lawsuit alleged she says these offensive things, a tirade on the video. So so people request the video, and from the prosecutor, she immediately sues the prosecutor to try to block access. And so that's a battle right now, trying to argue that the public can't see this video. There's no interest in it. So it's just kind of par the course that same borough attorney would then be sponsoring the bill to gut Oprah. And this is exactly, what would happen if this bill becomes law, that we would see more agencies suing requesters out of retaliation, saying they're harassing them by requesting records about that we deserve to see and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Can't make this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, New Jersey. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. When I explain this stuff to people that like are like in New York or like other states, they're like, but wait, I don't understand. It's New Jersey. Like it's a blue state. You're all, I don't understand. They just
blue state, that's what it is.
And how backward it can be here when like we have, it's like we're fighting over this stuff when we should be doing all these big ideas and things that people want.
Yeah. And when you said Senator Louise voted for it, I'm confused by that.
She voted for it.
We got a caller. We got a writer.
Right. Yeah. She voted for it to pass through the committee, as did everybody else, on all the Democrats except for Zwicker. And again, half the committee had left. Another horrendous thing was that Senator Johnson, Senator Weinberg tweeted this, that Senator Johnson from Bergen County, a black legislature, he was on his way to vote no against the bill. They called him on the phone and said, you're off the committee, and they subbed him out with someone else. I think he's actually an Essex.
And Johnson ain't nobody's radical or militant or outspoken person by a long shot. He's a former police officer, and we've been trying to twist his arm on police reform for real. But they're going so far to do something like that. This is
Yeah, how dare you be willing to vote no? So we're throwing you off, and we don't care, anything else. It was horrendous. And then the person that replaced him didn't, came and put a slip in saying no and left. So, yeah, it was a sham hearing.
Wow.
But people showed up. There were, between the two chambers, because they had it at the same time, there was about 7+ hours of testimony from folks against the bill. And so, many, many more calls to offices. And that's what folks need to do, is like make it known that they care about it. Because the legislature thinks, no one even cares about Oprah, but it's not true. People do care. Even if they don't know Oprah by name, they care about the principle that they should be able to walk into town hall and get these records, that police should be transparent, that we should know what government's doing. Even if they don't know the law that does it, they believe in that.
And it's basic principle.
I'm absolutely blown away. I didn't know this, and that's why I'm sitting here now just saying, wow. I mean, you're right. We've got to get on the phone. We've got to start making phone calls, because, I'm sure a lot of people don't know this is happening.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't. And so that's why I was so happy to come on the show. And, Mayor Baraka spoke out against this bill. Mayor Fulop in Jersey City spoke out against this bill. So there are some, people, the public defender's office testified against this bill. The comptroller's office testified against this
last week.
So there are people in government that know that, responding to an Oprah request can be a pain, but we think it's so important. We oppose any attempt to roll back this law. And so that, that's leadership that we need more public officials speaking out. We were able to get all of Andy Kim came out against it. And we were eventually able to sort of force Tammy Murphy to come out against it. But what we've heard is that Phil Murphy is willing to sign the bill. So calling the governor's office is also an important thing.
Yeah.
We cannot assume it is going to be all right because Democrats are there. We cannot do that.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous thing.
I think a lot of Democrats think it's fine but no, the Democrats are the ones leading the charge.
Yeah, that's right. Because we've been trying to get them to sign a CCR bill for years. We can't get that signed.
Yeah, right? Basic things. Yeah.
So, I mean, just absolutely incredible. So, we got to ask you the question. I'm sure you already heard it. We are a political hip hop radio talk show while you fighting all these cases and trying to keep your sanity. What is it?
So the two sort of things I've been listening to the most lately. One is connecting with my son. He's a teenager. He's 15, he's 15 and a half now. And so he's just discovered hip hop himself. And so he played NWA in the car yesterday, was super proud to that we knew the same songs. He's playing a lot of Kendrick Lamar. And then I'm also just obsessed with, I'm still listening to Beyonce Renaissance, but I'm also just obsessed with Cowboy Carter. I grew up in the Midwest, and so I listened to Dolly Parton and all that sort of stuff growing up. So I'm loving the the country influence.
He's killing that stuff
still
too.
Beyonce, and I'm loving the political debate that it's causing. I'm loving it.
Yeah, if you can call it a political debate. Right? Because, I mean, they're attacking her for making good music. I mean, Smokey Robinson even came out, the defender, and said, "Wow, so she can't make a country record? Really?"
Yeah, it's this ownership of they want to have this specific culture around it, and I think it's interesting that Dolly Parton's on the album and Willie Nelson, some of the old time country, which was not political in this way that new country is. That's very MAGA.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm old enough to remember Johnny Cash, and Johnny Cash was a bit of a progressive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. What was the other guy that smoked weed with him? What was the other guy?
Nelson used to get
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson loved his weed.
Yeah. Willie Nelson's on the album, so I think it's just interesting to see the welcoming by some folks and the rejection by others. But I think it's a great album. I love it as much as Lemonade, which was previously my favorite. So
and here's the thing, I don't know if you saw this, but Levi's stock went up 20%.
I didn't see that, but I can believe it.
Yeah.
they're not complaining.
Yeah,
no, no. I mean,
I picked my son from school and I saw like 2 girls in cowboy hats, and I never saw that in Bloomfield, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think it's just opening new doors to people, to like young people, to listen to new genres of music too.
And the language of Wynton Marsalis, and that's my generation of jazz musicians taking jazz into the 21st century. Ain't nothing but some more music.
Yep.
And here's the thing: what they don't understand, CJ, is the amount of money that Dolly Parton is going to make. She owns the publishing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm hoping Dolly Parton, I think, is one of those like beloved people that everybody likes, and she supports everybody. So I'm imagining that she'll do something good with the money to invest it in the community.
Yeah.
Dolly doesn't. I mean, Dolly loved the release that she loves what she did with the song, and I love, because I actually really love that song, but I love the way Beyonce updated it, because everybody else just covers it. And she makes it like modern.
And what people forget, CJ, is that Dolly Parton is really a good songwriter. She really is.
She really
it just happens to be country, but you can actually take that and flip it and make it R&B. She writes such
storytelling. It's musical storytelling.
I Will Always Love You by Whitney. That was a Dolly song.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Right. What she did with that song, and again, like you said, she took most of that money and she donated it. Right.
Yeah.
And for these young people to discover her, think about that. All these little young girls probably have never heard of Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Like you said, you saw these young girls with cowboy hats on and all that. Even and I guarantee you, all of those cowboy hat manufacturers, their stock is going to go because of the beehive.
And I'm in the gym 3:00 in the morning, and that's what's coming over the sound.
Yeah. I'm hoping there's a tour. I went to see the Renaissance. I went to see the Renaissance tour, so I'm hoping there's a tour for Cowboy Carter too.
Yeah.
Well, CJ, I know you weren't ready for this extended conversation on music culture, but it's been great having you. It's great having you. Folks, follow her on Twitter. She loads it up, right? Stay alert. Call your electeds on the legislative front. They need to hear from us. Our Newark base, you heard the names we just mentioned. Good folks, but they need to hear from us on this for real. They definitely do. So we appreciate you, CJ. Keep doing what you're doing. I definitely will be in touch on the regular, and Trenton we go and the Trenton we fight.
Yep. All right. Thanks for having me on. Have a good weekend.
Right on.
I see Che chiming in. I'm not sure if he's coming.
And he's supposed to be one of the candidates.
That's what I understood. You know what I mean? So he's chiming in. And so Che, if you listening, man, if you John said that he was waiting for a confirmation from you. So if you want to come in, just put it in the chat. Let us know, man. We'll figure. I don't know if you got the link.
I don't have his contacts. But if Jonathan should have sent him to him.
Yeah. So, or did he have the contacts? Did he have the link from last week? Because he was supposed to be on last week, I think, with his running mate. So
right.
Yeah. So, Che, if you're listening, if you could put your number in the chat or something, we'll send you the
email.
Your link. Yeah. We won't publish it. If he just put it in the chat, we'll send him the link so he can come on and and talk about his candidacy.
Yeah.
But we don't have that much time. We got to decide what we're going to do because it's going to be DJ Rhino's time. But while we wait to see if brother wants to come through and talk about his candidacy, so there were a couple of things, Zaid, that was in the news this week. So, I don't know where to start, but obviously, the big thing, you and me started talking a little bit about it, right? Was of course for me was exciting because I've never had a choice to vote for an all-black ticket. I've never had that choice before, right? To vote for a black man as the president, a black woman as the vice president.
I really like Melina a lot. She's
exactly, and I'm talking about somebody I like. And when you read her jacket, right? when you go and read her resume, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's Black Power.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And that's how she's been rolling. Yeah. And she's been a target too. That's another thing that we need.
That's right.
That's a conversation that we need to have too on another level at another time, because and with the looming, head of fascism trying to make its way through here. Right. And I'm heading to St. Louis tomorrow as a part of an electoral school that's really supporting, the Uhuru Three. The fact that 3 activists, right, 2 of whom who are older than I am, okay, are facing real federal charges, and they're not being stalked by the Republican right wing. This is under the Genocide Joe,
right?
So I mean, there's this whole Melina. That's when I really latched on to her. She's been out front on a lot of fronts. She's one of these. There's an African name that was given to the late great Ella Baker. Fundi. Fundi is a beautiful name. That's somebody who has been through all of those places where you get trained, credentialed, and processed, but who is not processed in her character and her access and her connection with the community. Melina Abdullah is like that. She's a serious scholar. We were talking to Denisah about coming out of Southern Cal. Melina has been teaching at UCLA for a minute. Mm-hmm. And has been a strong, long-standing voice for some real Pan-African work, dealing with African descendants here in the West, right? And on top of her being one of the most upstanding voices that are doing work on the Black Lives Matter front, and she literally uses her classroom for political education. She says it right on Facebook. She's got her own show on Tavis Smiley's station. This is not a dress. She's a force. Right. She's a force, and I really appreciate how she's rolling. And there's a side of me actually doesn't want her to do it because I don't want it to take away from everything else that she's doing. Right. But in terms of she brings she's a fresh voice, fresh face. Credibility is impeccable. Principle is impeccable. Good record, just good people. So I was really excited about it. I reached out to her. I'm hoping we can connect when I go to LA in a couple. But I was supposed to go to LA in December, but I got sick and didn't go. But I did. I opened the door for her to come this way. On the show, and the idea that you raised about a town hall is something to consider also. But it's it's the ballad of the bullet. Malcolm said, you're a chump. Yeah. Time to stop being chumps. So we we really need to look at this historical moment and not be afraid of making some critical decisions about what we do and what we don't do with the ballot.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? I think that what's happening is that, and I've heard Minister Hawk say this, right, where we've constantly got this fear factor being thrown at us, right? I totally agree that Donald Trump is the fascist, right? I agree with that. However, right, I think that we've never had a black choice before, right? And I'm saying I believe Melina, in my mind, and Cornel West, but I believe Melina, just based on her work, man, right, deserves our vote, particularly those of us who are in the struggle, right? And
deserve to be heard,
huh?
They certainly deserve to be heard.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, could you imagine
the old guard of the Democratic Party, the Hillary and the Joe guard? They're good at blocking folks to even be heard. If they can block Bernie Sanders, they ain't got no problems trying to block a Cornel West or a Melina Abdullah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Can you imagine though?
That ain't democratic.
But here's the thing though, Zaid. So when they start talking about women's issues, could you imagine having Melina speak to that from a black perspective, right? As a Pan-Africanist and as a Pan-African studies teacher.
Rough system. And then one of the things I was talking about her being
she's got what is it, almost 20 or 30 years doing this?
Yeah, she's been putting some time. She ain't nobody's kid.
Right.
So she was swatted by the LA police. You hear what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Several years ago, these things, hot. I mean, LA's had its share of police corruption and police brutality, and she's one of the pristine voices on that front. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, one day, she's being surrounded with helicopters and a SWAT team, and it was touchy, right? And all over what turned out to be, or so they said, a missed call. All right, the young brother's checking him. Let him get his time in.
Peace, Brother Che. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Good evening, Brother Riley. Good evening, Brother Zaid. How are you gentlemen feeling today? And
all right. We see you.
All right, brothers.
Good, my brother. Appreciate your comments, man. Thank you for chiming in on the chat, man. We saw you.
Had a little connection problem. It's my second time using StreamYard, but at least we have a studio, and at least you gentlemen have built an effective platform. So we salute you, gentlemen. Okay.
Thank you.
Right on. Thank you.
Well, we can hear you, brother. So let's get started, man. Because we're running a little late. So, want to start off the question asking you. Do you agree with the general direction of the Newark Public Schools?
Right now, I agree with the current direction that the students have the potential to be great. And they have the potential to be not only the leaders that will touch the intangible, see the invisible, and do the impossible, the children, but the school system could be going in a much more effective direction. We do have some amazing human beings who are currently in the school district, the Board of Education, but we feel that there is a need right now for fatherhood engagement.
Let me ask you this.
By accident, Jay. Huh? Go back a little bit. Go back and unmute. We talk about fatherhood, and then you went out. Your sound went out.
Oh, I was saying we have some human beings and area. We have some great human beings at the Board of Education, but right now we need a re-steering of the ship and an infusion and a frequency of fatherhood that we've never seen before. And right now, our campaign brings something to help the district and put it on a better trajectory.
Well, let me ask you this, Jay. What are some of the best things you think are happening with some of those people that you think are good people? What are some of the things you think are good?
I mean, some of the things that are actually good right now are the fact that they are being open to the idea of more parents and open elections being possible, where they're at least keeping the state guidelines so that they can steer the district to keep in local control that they've been given right now. But for it to be 100% local control, it's going to take the entire village. So a restoration of civics, that's something that they have, Mr. Riley and Zaid, begin to outline for the curriculum. But now we need the entire village, all of us lending our expertise, whether we're in the seat or not, to effectively rebuild the village for the classroom so that we don't have our third graders behind and we have our 12th graders graduating to be reflective, visionary, Afrocentric leaders and tomorrow's problem solvers. Today and tomorrow's problem solvers.
What do you think what do you think must change, or what do you think we need to change?
Well, one of the things, Mr. Riley, and good question that needs to change is we right now have a African American history that is going back to slavery, whereas our campaign, It Takes the Village, we bring in a amendment in the curriculum of Afrocentricity that goes back to 1800 BCE, restoring the child's self-esteem from the pre-K level all the way to 12th grade. Now, we do deal with world history, and we still want the students to have civics and everything else they need for graduation. But when we talk about the psychology around Black children, Latino children, but particularly the Black children that we need them to raise their scores, we're unlocking their greatness through a true restoration of Afrocentricity to its rightful place in the curriculum across subjects. including the technical trades, because that also, whether it's trades, construction, STEM, Afrocentricity can be used to restore the self-esteem and some of this anger and rage and lack of empathy that we're seeing from some of our most at risk. Now, there are children who are taking on the leadership role themselves to begin to have larger discussions amongst the students, Ed and Zaid, but now the parents now have to support our students and our village, if you will, Zaid. Regardless of how the election goes, we have to rein that accountability year round, out of love, not out of hate.
Well, agreed. Parents, I think that's always, I think, one of the primary issues and concerns that, our parents need to be fully engaged in the children's lives. But I've got a specific issue. What about school expansion? Newark has expanded the number of elementary schools, middle schools, school of fashion, global studies, data and technology, Michelle Obama, and soon the School of Architecture and Design. Is that a good thing?
Ed, that is it depends on how it's managed. So yes, it is a good thing because the state of New Jersey, because they fund 84% of Newark's annual budget, it's on Newark's Board of Education to develop its capital budget so that we can always do, Ed and Zaid, what's called the LRFP, the Long Range Facilities Plan. So that it is a good thing that they are completing items in the Long Range Facilities Plan. But Ed, we need twice the amount of capital resources to complete everything that we need to do for Newark. Right now it's estimated at about $2 billion to fix everything of all of our schools. Roger Leon came out with this number about a month ago, but several of us who are parents in the construction industry who work in the trades every day, I work in the building trades, we were looking at around $1.5 billion for everything we need. That's every school, Ed. If the mayor could walk into the governor's office, and if the governor was gonna help us, and we have a repayment schedule and a capital budget, that would be that would come from a school board that's thinking in terms of long range facilities planning. But it is a good thing that the representatives have gone to Trenton and got support from the state budget. But now the accountability is on parents, families to get those library cards and start going to these museums with their sons and daughters, because Zaid and Ed, being a parent of a son and daughter, or a guardian of a son and daughter, or uncle of a son, of a niece or nephew, that's the gift. The Most High God gives us the gift, but the choice of love, involvement, that's the burden that's on these parents, to not only leave it, that they're not to leave it on the district for their child to become great. They need to send that child, a well-nourished child, to school ready to learn, and making it a good thing for the district to have children that are coming to school ready, and the parents do some of the lifting with the district, if you will, Brother Ed Riley.
Brother Kafele, one of the most
and thank you for y'all show, man. I listen on from time to time. I know sometimes it seems like we have some political clash, but I have a lot of respect for you gentlemen, and I know it gets controversial out there, but I'm always willing to have a battle of ideas with you gentlemen.
That's right.
It's never a different frequency that those other fake news folks will try to ever make it.
That's right. Our brother, Principal Kafele, who is one of the most well-respected brothers in the field, he wanted to ask you a question. So I think it's a good one, too, for you, my brother. Can you see that question there?
Principal Kafele, good evening, sir. Let's see what, that's a deep brother. Brother, give us an example of where the district is getting it wrong for Black children beyond history. One of the areas that we're there's three things: civics, we have the opportunity with the curriculum from early childhood, particularly the 8th grade, to incorporate, when we're dealing with examples of history going from the Nile Valley dynasties all the way through. So we're going to go pre-colonial Africa, ancient Kemet, and integrating that into the curriculum where students understand themselves not from a position of slavery. They kind of start us off and they handicap a lot of these instructors to a curriculum of slavery, whereas we need to go much, much further than that, because before we know it, a lot of the curriculum, we don't even get a fair shake on curriculum that is reflective in terms of the books for ancient history to be able to be brought into world-class history. So to respond to Kafele, we want to amend world-class history, AP world-class history, to include actual tangible examples from both the technical trades all the way to grammar, logic, and all of the humanities, for us to bridge those disciplines with an Afrocentric infusion across disciplines of the curriculum, so that we can push back against some of the culture of murder, misogyny, and mayhem that we're seeing as a cause and effect of this third generation of sponsored murder music, which is something different than hip hop at its genesis. So we're dealing with we're dealing with distractions in music, distractions on the phone with this generation, and we want to, in the classroom, restore Afrocentricity so that the student will be ever reminded that they are representative not only of their family, their village, but they also have a duty to humanity, to be honorable men and women, boys and girls who will grow up into men and women who will take care of their village and essentially be able to pass a village to the next generation, beyond position, Ed and Zaid, beyond economic status, but to pursue steps, Zaid, in building some social equity around education. Some, but world-class history, general education, amended to look at professional development back to 1800 BCE, Afrocentricity, going beyond the rusty Department of Education standards of what they thought, the state bureaucrats thought Amistad was. We have elders and literary contributors in Newark, and we want to not only just bring in Black authors to the schools and abolitionist authors that are going to be showing a true history of both American history and also the civic participation of how Black, Latino, and working poor white children survive in America through the processes of civics. We're seeing civil rights become caught in the static of other hyper-excitable issues in the mainstream public, and we want to reposition civics to be an extension of what they need to know and after they graduate.
So let me ask you this, my brother. Were you last year we had some controversy at Global Studies, right?
Okay.
And so Global Studies controversy and race and diversity more generally report what can
Ed, Ed, before you jump to that, just one last thing, and then we'll continue that full court. We'll continue breaking that full court press. To Kafele, on International Pi Day, once It Takes a Village gets on the school board for International Mathematics Day, I will make sure that I find you and Zaid and we do something particularly around Afrocentricity for March 14th, 2025. So 2024 Pi Day passed, but math alone, we can go into Afrocentricity. But go ahead to the Creed report, Brother Ed.
So the Global Studies Controversy and Race and Diversity more generally report. What can you say about how Newark Public Schools deal with the issue of race?
Well, that's a tricky one, man. That's why we believe that it takes a village, and this is going to take a village. And when we think of no blame problem solving, before we deal with that in terms of a civic function of how we should manage a city or a board of education, any relic of slavery that comes to a frequency of behavior in a school with a principal that's an employee of the public, that should immediately be addressed in a fashion where it's actively dealing with the forces that are prohibiting their freedom both in the classroom and to advance as growing students. So what happened there at that academic crime scene of racism showing its ugly head, and it showing a relic of slavery with the Brown versus Board 1 case and 2 case, places a burden on school districts across the country. They did not meet their burden of Brown, Brother Ed, and they are still ongoing with that review, but the parents have still reached into Kuji Jakalia's self-determination to not be blinded by that static and to continue to steer their the academic success of their children through 12th grade and the 11th, 10th, and 9th grades. So parents have not let that be a distraction, but we have not seen, Ed, a pushback in terms of true student liberation and African liberation at that school for both teachers, and the principal there has still continued to evade the full evaluation of the situation at hand. But that will we don't want to waste time just on that. But when you're dealing with the bureaucratic systems of school districts and the politics of state government, when you're running on a school board and you're unbought and unbossed, you can go after some of the issues in the swamp, if you will. And that matter there that erodes in the form of racism in the classroom, that's something that your show doesn't stand for. I don't stand for it. My grandparents didn't stand for it. My daddy's town and my granddad's town down in Orangeburg, South Carolina, they would never live for that for their kids or their sons and daughters. So if I'm on the school board, whoever's the principal, they got to go. And probably half of the people in that building would be on the chopping block if I'm on the board in terms of employment wise. Because it's not acceptable in Livingston or in Glen Ridge, it shouldn't be acceptable here. We need to be running it how y'all run this show, and how outside of the controversy, how we deal with the public. When you're serving the public, racism should not be stained anywhere on that institution. But New Jersey, being in the tradition that it is, the old state that was a up north state that still sided with the Confederacy, we have to be ever reminded that New Jersey schools are one of the most segregated school systems in the nation. And I do think that we need folks like yourself, Saeed, and Ed, and others, and the Principal Kafeles to, help amend these curriculums so that the child development experience is much more of a village experience of academic excellence, Black excellence, and student excellence. That's what this is about, Ed. Quality education for the boys and girls, the gift, them being the gift, and positioning the parent in the driver's seat of the education, beyond political status, beyond economic status, suggesting rather that social equity is what we need now more than ever in the school district. And I appreciate that question.
Now this is a really important question here, Brother Che. As you know, right? 16-year-olds will soon have the right to vote in school board elections.
Yes,
Newark
yes.
has over $1 billion budget, but over one third of that budget goes to charter schools that have zero local elected accountability. If democracy is important, doesn't that have to change? Do you support charter schools coming under the control of the local elected board of education? Why or why not?
Hey, Ed, I do support. Well, first, let's get the context first. The state of New Jersey, 1/3 of that budget, the state of New Jersey has been putting labels on how these students are funded. Right now, they're funded $27,000 per student from the state of New Jersey under their formula, Ed, and that's from Trenton, right? But then when it gets to Newark, what because we were under local control and we're getting it back, Ed, is they forced the situation on the Newark board that they had to appropriate this money or double park this money. In this instance, 401 million, or it's this year it's like 400 million. And the state of New Jersey told them you have to double park this money for these schools. I believe that the Board of Education should be able to have a representative on each charter organization that's operating in the geographical radius of Newark. Because Ed and Zaid, the charter schools have to sign something with the mayor every year and the state of New Jersey called the Newark Charter Compact. And I won't be able to see where that is until I get on the school board, but that is something that I would help the village of Newark place representation and a process of accountability on educational institutions that are that size. Because one of the things, a fight that we had, I have family that's graduated primarily from Newark Board of Education schools. My son goes to North Star Academy. And Zaid met some of my son's friends downtown before by the park, right by Washington Park, by North Library. And it's North Star is like 98% black. But not even that school has it right. They've dropped the ball on behavior, but that's on parents. So no academic school is perfect, but those board of trustees that govern each charter school, for them to have more democratic process, they need to have at least a liaison reporting to Newark Board of Education, and that's something that Newark Board of Education would be able to get. They would need to have a new resolution passed in Trenton so that they could have a almost like a version of like the casino movie when the guys from Chicago send the representative to Vegas to oversee. They don't have any representative editors that they sent. So there's no one from the board that comes to their meetings when they're passing these dollars. And these are essentially Newark students that they're educating, and they need to be accountable to Newark Board of Education versus the current divide that's been kind of used in the political arena. Parents don't want it to be political. Parents want it to be Zaid, something that their sons and daughters can that's tangible to them. And education is the it, if you will, Zaid and Ed. And parents want their children to have the best quality education. And that's what we believe at It Takes a Village. We want our sons and daughters to be not only successful, but reflective, visionary leaders who believe in themselves and respect the elders in the generation, as well as can hold those accountable in their own age group.
So
that's another thing our campaign reins in. It's an immediate generational respect policy we're going to be establishing. You see some things with the curfew, but they had to pull that back. But we want to advocate a 24-hour intervention program that is intergenerational. But maybe we'll save that for another show. But that involves y'all brothers and others making the world our classroom and breaking down some of the silos and division that we have currently today.
So, Jay, good answers. This is going to be our last question for you.
All right, brother Ed. Thank you, brother. Yeah.
No. This is
I
the
came
last
from a construction job, but I didn't forget about you and Zaid.
No.
Zaid is still working out, so
you got one more. Yeah, he's trying to get you one more. Yeah.
You got one more question, bro. I got one more for you.
Okay.
So this is based around the academic recovery efforts of COVID. So what is the district doing to contract the efforts of COVID learning loss? Many of our students fell behind, particularly third graders, reading scores. What is currently being done? And as you know, Brother Che, we have testing that's going to start this month. That's going to run through May. Do you think the students are ready for that?
Yes, I do think the students are ready for that, Ed, because I believe in their unlimited God-given potential. I believe that the gifted and talented students and the general education students and the special education students, they are going to present their best skills on that test and have their notes ready to go. Now, on the other side of that coin, Ed, during the pandemic, the state of New Jersey dropped the ball because they did not lend a academic program or a curriculum that the parents were going to be able to maintain rigor and a education a lesson plan. Lesson plans went down the drain in the pandemic, and if a parent didn't have a library card to go back to doing what Dr. Martin Luther King's father was doing with him in terms of what we were doing in the segregated South on those dirt floor schools where we had table wisdom, where we sat at grandma's table and talked about things of history and built experiential knowledge. When those children went to participate in the civil rights movement, their training came directly from their backyards first, in their churches and mosques. So my suggestion would be that don't worry about the data this year. We're going to need a year to prepare. And the kids, I'm worried about the students that are going to be growth students. The student that's a D student this year, I need them to be a C, B, or A student by the fall or the next winter. But the gifted and talented students, Ed and Zaid, are going to light that test up like a young Mike Tyson out of East New York. You watch what Newark students do. They just skew the data, Ed and Zaid, because they test us at these different points in time. And they're not, the state of New Jersey is not giving our children a fair shake. So for those third graders, they tested a few schools. And although the data does rain an alarm that we even have some students falling behind, that's on those parents to get those students library cards. And all they have to do is call me and some other parents. I know some moms in Newark who have a literacy program. They have a literacy program, Ed, where that child will be brought up to where they need to be. And we have to integrate the use of technology to raise the literacy and repetition being the key to mastery. Students cannot, parents should not be waiting for the instructor to get them grade level ready. We have to use the resources that like Dr. Charnay Brown and others around the city of Newark that have been trying to help build an ecosystem of learning outside of the Board of Education. Parents have to use those resources. Every child in Newark should have a library card. That's a non-negotiable. Every child should have a uncle, a dad, an auntie that they can practice how to write their name and learn how to fill out a checkbook and learn how to do some home based skills. But those standardized tests only measure they only measure one aspect of the student's intelligence. They don't measure their experiential intelligence. And that's what I'm suggesting, Ed and Zaid, that our students take the test And after they're successful at it, whether they're in a public school, a charter school, or a magnet school, they are going to score where they're going to score on the test, because New Jersey has already put a fix in against our children. It's a matter of parents tracking the growth of where their child needs to be over the summer so that we can be super prepared for the test the next time it rolls around. Because the pandemic set us 2 grade levels behind, Ed. That's how much of an academic loss. So it'll be the equivalent to where Frederick Douglass started off when he was in his runaway mode. I'm not sure if he was self-taught before he left the plantation or after he left, but that's the kind of fathers we need on the school board. And quite frankly, some of the people I've seen representing around the current Board of Education must increase the temperature of fighting the forces that are threatening the freedom of both parents, families, and academic imagination.
So tell us, Brother Che, where they can find you and when is the election?
The election is April 16th, 2024. I appreciate each of the 350,000 residents. I appreciate you, Ed. Appreciate Zaid. It takes a village. Mutai El Amin, who's the father, and myself, Che Colter, who's a dad. I work in the building trades. And I also want y'all to know that Mutai and I, we have a strong lifetime commitment to increasing the quality of safety in the schools, inside and outside of schools, increasing the quality of education, reimagining and refocusing parent-community relations and building resource pipelines for parents, also ending the classroom to courtroom pattern and codifying a parent bill of rights so that parents have right to know, and we stand up for our children in whatever crisis they will have at the school. Parents also need to be notified within 24 hours of any violent incidents happening in their schools. And on the first 30 days on the job, Mutai and I and the entire It Takes a Village community want to come back on the show and let you all know where our school district is and where we need to go beyond 2025. Because over the last 26 years, we've been given $30 billion, and Zaid and Ed, now we have to show up for it.
And where can they find you on the ballot? Where you're placed on the ballot?
Mutai and I will be bracketed on the ballot. We are 7A and 8A, and that is where you can vote for us either by mail. You can mail it in. If you go to the Essex County Vote by Mail, they will show you the drop box locations. Or if you need to vote in person, you can contact myself or email parentbillofrightsnj@gmail.com, or reach out to me at my direct civic line 862-218-5576. And it takes a village. And Ed and Zaid, I look forward to building with you brothers through the spring, through Juneteenth, through the summer, and salute to your listeners.
All right. Thank you, my brother. We appreciate you coming through, man. Good luck.
It takes a village.
That's right. Yeah, you had Mutai on last week too. So yeah, you covered now. Right on.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Thank you, guys. All right.
Rhino's been trying to get on like crazy. Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. As we know, I saw you were struggling trying to get on, man. We'll make sure.
Yeah, I think Donna was trying to get on too. What's good, Hot?
Yeah, the link was coming. The link came kind of strange today. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, there she go.
What up, Ed? What up, Zaid? Hey, Donna.
Yeah, we ain't got but a few minutes left, but we got too much to talk about. What's up? How can good to see you, little?
I agree with Zaid. I agree with with of course, Brother Zaid. We ain't got a lot of time, but I really want to start with Mr. C, man, paying tribute to one of the greatest that ever do it, man. You know that brother. I got to tell y'all, man, just off the bat, I met that brother long time ago with Clark Kent. And, man, that was my brother. I really thought Mr. C was one of the baddest DJs I'd ever met, man. And and when I went to Bad Boy, when I met Biggie in the elevator, and he introduced me to Mr. C, I was like, who the hell is Mr. C? I was like, Mr. What is that? Mr. C, because Big, y'all may not know this, when I met Big over 30 years ago, he was kind of shy to me. And I heard, Because if y'all would have heard the original interview, I got original interviews on tape that Puff asked me never to publish. If y'all would have heard those tapes, sound nothing like the image that was created of this dude, man. And I was
now, yeah, he's a story too right now too on a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. With Puff wants you really, because that's actually some good footage you may have that looks at a more positive outlook. He may want you to publish them now. But Mr. C, I have to say, he and going back and looking at his interviews, he said a lot about Newark. Oftentimes he got, I guess he learned in New York and Newark, he was saying in many of his interviews. But I had the opportunity to meet him when he was a DJ for Jada Kiss, and he came to Orange when Jada Kiss provided, and I did my fangirl thing. So it was a real good night that night.
Hey man, awesome. Listen, it's on you, DJ Rhino. I just wanted to pay tribute to what I thought, man, was one of the baddest young brothers. You know, I'm older than he is, man. I thought he was just dope, man.
Mr. C was dope, man. You know, me, for the most part, I was a DJ coming up. You know, I did production and I did lyrics and all that too, but I was a DJ for the most part. And back in the day when Kane first came out with his solo album, because you know, when you come out, you know, when Kane first came out, he came out kind of like under Biz. You know what I'm saying? But when he dropped that album, you got to hear him and his DJ. And, you know, as a DJ, you're always critiquing the DJ to see how good he is, and what kind of scratches and cuts he got, what kind of style he got. And Mr. C was dope, man. All of the breakdowns, I remember the breakdown that he had in Ain't No Half Stepping. And, you know, he was just a dope DJ, man. And then later down the line, just to learn how dope of a brother he was too, man, because he was a real open brother, man. He did a lot of work for and with a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, throughout his career. And you know, it was a shock, man, just to get the news, man. It's like Mr. C, like of all people, I listened to Mr. C. You know, when I was closing at my job, I would listen to Mr. C at night when I got off, because on XM radio he would have his show. You know what I'm saying? So I would listen to Mr. C every night when I got off work. So it was just crazy just to hear this news. You know what I'm saying?
What happened to him?
We don't know.
They haven't said yet. Yeah.
Haven't said anything. I mean, we're in the age now where, you know, they keep that stuff disclosed. You know what I mean? Yeah. But,
and maybe because even OJ, he had cancer. He didn't. We found out that he had prostate cancer because they announced that he passed due to.
So. Yeah. I mean, you know, right now it's all speculation. I mean, I seen that, you know, Mr. C lost a lot of weight. I thought that was just him trying to get healthy and, you know what I'm saying, bring his weight down or whatever. So, you know, we don't know. We'll find out down the line probably. But, you know, rest in peace, Mr. C, man, because that one hurt. That one hurt. That one really hurt when I heard that one. Because that dude was active all the way to the very end. And he always gave, you know, my brother's Artifacts, he always gave them mad love. That was one DJ, a New York DJ, you know, Mr. C from Brooklyn, but he always played Artifacts in his sets and stuff. Always play Artifacts music, always like saluted them, and you know, he always looked out, man. He did a lot of work with DJs out here in Jersey. You know, he did work with Do It All and stuff. You know what I'm saying? He's done a lot of stuff, man. Like he's gotten around because he's been so approachable like that. You know what I'm saying? He's down to earth brother, man. So yeah, just again, man, losing him really hurt when I got that news, man. It was almost like losing, you know, like a cousin or something, you know.
Right. I actually talked to Mr. C like regularly. Like, you know, he was the featured DJ on Friday nights at 24 hours apiece for the last 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, always approachable.
So the most recent one?
Last 3 years.
Last 3 years.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And he wrecks shop every time. He takes his show extremely serious, and he's just not a DJ. He wasn't just a DJ. He was literally an entertainer that was a DJ. Crowd interaction, call and response, making sure he played music for all generations and all for everybody. So yeah, he's gonna be missed. Very, very, very strongly missed. Yeah, man. Big loss.
How old was he, man? How old was he?
57.
Wow. I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, why is so many young brothers? I mean, why is so young? What's up, man? Like, what are we not doing?
Everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got way more access to healthcare and medicine, and I'm saying it seemed like them dudes lived longer before us, man. Now we going down.
Well, it's also you really don't know what it was, so it's like you can
I know.
speculate.
Yeah.
Speculate, but you don't know. So
Yeah.
until we know, you know.
And this is
depression will kill you.
and they said, and you know, that's a lot of people coming out of COVID.
Depression will give you a heart attack.
Yeah, the stress. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know. I see what you're wearing.
Yeah, well, you know it's that man's birthday today. Herbie Hancock. Yeah. That's big man right there. And you know, in hip hop, we claim Herbie too in hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody claim from that album. I remember I dropped that album. I had it. Right. Yeah, that album was one of the most seminal albums for what we call jazz fusion back in the 70s. It went the furthest out of any particular album, you know, and it touched everything, right? Yeah. But it was unmistakably black-driven sound that everybody was grooving to. That was the last time you would see a jazz album at a house party.
That's right, because they had Watermelon Man on there and Chameleon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say the name, Rhino?
What'd you say?
Did you say the name?
That's the Headhunters album.
Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters.
Okay.
Yeah, the Headhunters album.
And Herbie's in his 80s now. He's incredible. He's a brilliant brother. Mm-hmm. Brilliant brother.
For sure.
So did y'all see that?
He's like 84 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That drove everybody nuts.
That's right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Rocket. Yeah. And then I was just telling somebody last night that the Grammy performance with him and Herbie, with him and DST, that was inspiring, man. That was mad inspiring just to see where how far hip hop could go back then. You know what I mean? To see it on the
1980
Grammy like that.
That's right.
It was huge.
That's right.
That was huge. So yeah, happy birthday, Herbie Hancock, man.
Straight out of Chicago, he was one of Miles's babies.
Yeah.
So him, the young Wayne Shorter from Newark, New Jersey, the young Tony Williams, right?
Eddie Martin was on there.
They were young boys.
Yeah.
He set them boys on fire back in the mid '60s, and all of them in their own way changed the world.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time, you see that Brother Capele put this in the chat, man. He was wondering if you brothers could, chime in on that and give him some of y'all thoughts.
You want to go first, Mahak? You want me to go?
You go first.
The Cole, everybody was coming down on Cole because he apologized. And true, in hip hop culture, that's unheard of. You don't normally see people apologize.
That's not true, and we have many examples of it. But go ahead.
All right, I'll let you break that down. All right, but for me, I saw the apology, and to me, and after hearing J. Cole's diss, I see why he apologized. It was kind of worth an apology. It was worth it, man. I mean, it wasn't good. The stuff he was saying wasn't factual. The stuff he was saying on Kendrick wasn't factual. It was like made up stuff. It was almost like, Kendrick jumped in and did what he did. He said what he said, and it was almost like he was just playing with them. It's like, all right, let me just get something started. Let me just get back in the game. Let me get back up in here. You know what I'm saying? And it was almost like Cole was dragged in because, of course, Cole fans are going to be like, all right, what you going to say? What you going to do? You got to respond. You got to respond. And so J. Cole responds, and he pulls all of this stuff to make this response, but it wasn't good, and it wasn't factual, and it was just bad. To me, it was bad. I heard it. It was bad to me. And
it wasn't bad.
To me, it was. But
relative to the trash that's out, it was not bad. It just wasn't what you expected from him.
Yeah. All right. You put it that way.
Because it's all relative, right? It's relative. Now the reason why I said the majority of the stuff that's out there is just straight trash and garbage, because the 85ers run the scene. And what Kendrick did was give the 85ers something that they could chew on.
Latch on, yeah.
J. Cole is not 85.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to stoop down to the 85 was him being out of character. And there's a problem with.
So you say Kendrick's an 85er though?
I'm saying he gave them the 80.
Gave them something.
Kendrick's track wasn't that dope. He didn't say nothing.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It was
he
like
didn't say nothing. He wasn't like
he burned them.
He didn't say nothing, but he said some inflammatory things that make the 85ers go ooh ah. But he, it was below Kendrick to go there. It was below him. So it's like, we got in this culture, and the slave master got us, man. He got us because our whole. The way we move is about disrespect. It's about being inflammatory. It's about, so I got this whole thing because of Star from Star and Buck Wild. Me and him went at it for like years. They did a whole thing where they threw the Channel Live album in the trash on Hot 97 back in 2000.
I remember that.
And nobody stood up for me, but that's another story.
That was crazy.
Yeah, nobody stood up for me. But that's another story. So, in me hashing out my differences with Star, he put me onto his autobiography, which was actually an incredible book. But in it, he talks about when he was put onto the book Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, he discovered his purpose in life. And if you know who Ayn Rand was, she was a political theorist whose whole thing was about the ends justifies the means, objectivism, material wealth, material possession, and the way to achieve it is to burn everything down so you can warm yourself with the fire. Like the ends justifies the means. As long as you get something out of it, it doesn't matter how low you gotta go, how disrespectful you gotta go. So we have this culture that's about let me get on by disrespect. Let me get on by tearing somebody else down. And J. Cole is one of the exceptions to that rule. That's kind of like the permeating rule in rap music culture, not saying hip hop, rap music culture, right? And I think once he put the song out, he couldn't put his all into it because that's not who he is. And he put it out and he realizes, man, I'm just feeding a beast that's really going to destroy our community. Like you got J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar, two quote unquote conscious MCs that's now trying to satisfy the 85ers. So once you go there, how do you save yourself and go the other direction? Not many can do that. KRS-One could do it, but people don't know that KRS-One and MC Shan went on tour during those battles where they were on stage together, apologizing and giving each other respect. And how KRS-One apologized to PM Dawn. He apologized to Roxanne Shante. I was at the minister's house in Chicago when Common walked in and apologized to Ice Cube, and they embraced, and Common was crying and Cube was crying. So we don't do, no, that's not true. We do apologize. We do try to meet our brothers and sisters with a level of respect.
I'm glad he did it. It was necessary.
It was necessary. Now, people are not going to realize it until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line. We'll understand how much heart and courage you have to be able to say, I'm wrong, I'm gonna pull it back. That takes more courage than doing what the 85ers is doing. A lot of times we do things just because everybody else is doing it. That's weak.
That's right.
That's cowardly. To stand on your square and to do what's right, no matter what's popular, that's courage. And we'll figure it out eventually.
Say that.
And sometimes, I'm sorry to say, the 85ers got to get sacrificed. And it might take that. It might take the purge to happen.
And I'm sorry, Hard King, can you just tell us real briefly what the 85ers are?
85ers is the blind, deaf, and dumb. The 85ers are the masses of the people who don't want nothing, don't know they don't want nothing. They just walking around blindly by their emotions and their feelings. 85ers. And you got 10% who are the bloodsuckers of the poor, and you got 5% who are the poor rights teachers whose duty is to educate the 85% of who they truly are. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, that's that. So you know.
Sound like a mic just dropped to me, but
exactly.
Listen, man, I gotta.
Can I also say before we get out of here, Hakeem Green is more than entertainment.
Yes, sir.
Indeed.
I get pigeonholed as the entertainer. I'm not just the entertainer. I'm more than entertainment. But I've been kind of boxed in as entertainment, and it's And
this business will definitely box you in if you ain't careful.
I ain't talking about music. I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about the music industry.
We talking about the political economy of the music when we bring you on.
Nah, forget the music. Forget the music.
I'm not talking about music. You hear what I said, right?
I'm talking about us.
Political economy of the music.
Yeah.
Who is Hakeem Green, a former New Jersey educator and former frontman of the True School hip hop group Channel Live? Green has been a multi-dimensional force in the music industry for nearly 3 decades. So I guess I touched a little bit of it, of who Hakeem Green is. You're welcome.
So former educator. Right.
Yeah, and the thing is, I totally agree with her. I think J. Cole, that really was not a good look for his brand, right? That's exactly what I thought when I heard about it. I was like, wow, man. I mean, here's a guy that looked like he was above reproach to me, and I was like, nah, I just wasn't feeling that, man.
They need it.
And it wasn't a good look for both of them because they're both looked at as like the two top dudes of now, you know what I'm saying? And for them to be going at it rather than doing something together, me and my man was just talking about that. To hear Kendrick and Cole do a project together, that's something that would be incredible. You know what I'm saying? But to shout out for at it with each other, that's it'll like Hawk was saying, it'll make money for those, but it's not going to do nothing for us, for the people.
Man, Spotify, all these platforms.
Oh yeah.
We got two brothers dissing each other. But Spotify, they're gonna make the majority of the money off of it.
Two good brothers too.
Yeah,
exactly. We finally got them.
We got to do better.
We finally got them fighting each other.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, it's gonna take somebody like Hawk to explain that to them. You see what I'm saying?
Well, if Hawk can get a big enough platform, then I will.
Somebody that's in the industry. You know what I mean? Because they ain't listening to nobody else.
Hey man, I can't. I thank All Politics is Local for giving me time to give my thoughts on things, but it's hard to get people to lock in, man. It's I'm gonna have to go do something negative just to get myself some attention because I can't seem to get people to.
Nah, man, you can't feed the 85ers, man.
I'm trying to feed. Hey, I'm trying to feed me.
Okay.
So
there you go.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. All we do is spark madism.
Say that.
That's 50 Cent came on the scene that way, didn't he? He came on the scene dissing everybody, man.
Who's that?
50 Cent.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's history with that within the Black literary tradition. Years ago, to be the one black writer on the scene, you had that black writer had to take down the black writer from the previous generation. It was corny shit.
White supremacy.
Richard Wright, there was a couple generations of that bullshit. This bullshit.
White supremacy.
Absolutely.
So it can only be one.
Yeah. That's what they tell us.
Only one at a time.
That's right.
Because they said so.
Yep. Well, listen, man, we over. We out of time, man. I appreciate everybody for coming through. I'm gonna give everybody some last words. So, we'll start with you, Donna. Anything?
I know, because you think I'm gonna be the longest. I will close with while we were talking about J. Cole, I pulled this up. Jadakiss was on the Stephen Smith show, and he expressed his desire to ask J. Cole why he apologized to Kendrick Lamar and says Drake is going to shoot a missile at Kendrick Lamar when everybody least expects it.
Wow. Yeah, Drake gonna make a hit record. That's a diss record.
Mm-hmm. Hit record. That's a diss record.
Drake gonna come. The girl, the chicks is gonna be like, oh my god. Everybody gonna be singing along to the hook and gonna figure out. Wait a minute, he getting at these jokers.
That's right. And,
the money gonna come for Drake because there's a bunch of people coming for Drake now and all he got to do is respond back, and there you go.
But that's right. When you have no responsibility to the community, you have no responsibility to your people, you can do all that because you don't have no responsibility. Nobody's expecting you to, quote unquote, stay in your lane. But J. Cole is, he's accountable to the community, man. He's invests and sacrifices for the people, and he don't want to set a bad example for the people. So, we laugh, we joke, sounds good, but at the end of the day, what do we get out of it? Spotify and these other platforms, they get a whole heck of a lot out of it. But what do we get out of it?
Well, go ahead, Zaid. Any last words you got, my brother?
Yeah, heading to St. Louis, it'll be the ballad of the bullet, it'll be liberty or death, it'll be freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. 60 years ago on this day, X's and Malcolm is the answer.
Go ahead, Hawk. Any last words, my brother?
That's it. 24 hours apiece, August 23rd, 24th.
Save the date.
South Orange Avenue, 14th Street.
All right.
Any last words, brother?
Yeah, tomorrow, the usual time, twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ. Catch me at 3 p.m. for the Saturday Shake Up. I'll be there tomorrow rocking. Also, more hip hop news real quick. Also, rest in peace, Patty Astor. She was the actress in Wild Style. Also, she was the co-founder of the Fun Gallery, which was down in the East Village. All the graph heads, the classic legendary graph heads used to go down there. And it was one of the first galleries that even opened up to graffiti artists. Yeah, so we lost Patty Astor on the 9th, and then we lost Mr. C the very next day. Wow. So rest in peace to both.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, listen, y'all, we want to thank everybody, of course, that was on. Zaid, you want to thank everybody that came through tonight, all the guests?
Oh, loaded show. Denisah Williamson. Tomorrow's the first anniversary of Pushh Forward, her 501c3, putting that work in for peace in the streets. Joe Marchica, Our Revolution, Mercer County. Right? Are we at the end of the county line in New Jersey at last? And of course, C.J. Griffin, people's lawyer C.J. Griffin, in the fight to preserve the integrity of the Oprah Act. We have the right to public records on these people who we put in office.
And we want to also thank the school board candidate, Che Colter, for coming through, and good luck to him in the race. Also want to make sure that this is on behalf of the mayor. He's doing a public meeting tomorrow in regards to Harriet Tubman Square. That's going to be tomorrow at the Newark Museum from 10 a.m. Until around, it doesn't have an end time, but it starts at 10 a.m. That's his public meeting. He's asking everybody to come.
What's the issue?
It's about using the public square. I mean, I would assume people aren't really taking advantage of it the way he had hoped. I think the vision was, when he came on initially, I think the vision was he was hoping that it would be like, how folks use Washington Square, where they go in
Lincoln Park.
Yeah, but people are down there. It's real because it's in the arts community. So I think he was, more cultural things would be going on. So he's asking, for the community to come out and let's talk about, how do we put our heads together to be, because remember, they took that park over, man, and basically removed those.
Took down Mr. Columbus.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll find out tomorrow in the public meeting, but he's asking for he's calling it the Harriet Tubman Square improvements. And so he's asking for everybody to come down and let's have a conversation. Let's see what we can do to utilize that park, I would assume, over the summer and get some use out of it. A lot of money was spent on it. So that's going to be tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the Newark Museum. So we thank everybody for chiming in. We're a little late. We're sorry for going over. We appreciate all y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. And by the way, of course, next week the mayor be on.
That's right.
So we'll get to him next week, about this very thing. And we also want to thank John. Of course, he's out of town in Arizona with his students. And we thank our brother Bashir Emeritus. He just got back. I don't know if y'all know, his son just graduated in the Marines, right?
Wow.
Paris Island, made it through boot camp, man.
You know what I mean? Congratulations.
Yes.
Just got back. So big up to our brother and big up to Khalil. You know, congratulations, my brother. So listen, man, we'll see all of y'all, of course. Thank all y'all. We'll see y'all next week at the same time with Mayor Barack and the Mayor's Forum. As we always say, Brother Zahid, we'll catch him where?
In the whirlwind.
We'll catch y'all in the whirlwind.
Peace.
Peace.